from the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the Smoak Show. Presented by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with David Craig and Craig Smoak.
And good afternoon. It is a Monday. It's a new week of a lot going on in college football and sports. The World Cup is over. The British Open is over. A couple of major international events, but college football might as well be. I'm David Craig. Great to have you with us today. We'll get into what we're going to discuss today. We'll look back at those two events, but mainly the SEC Media Days. Craig Smoak back from a little chance to take a deep breath on a 3-day weekend. Hello, sir.
Hey, how you doing? Good to be here, and well. Good to have some small time away. Looking forward to getting some more here, but good to be back today and start another week.
By the way, I want to say thanks to Brett Ciancia. No, this is a college football budge. Tyler Budge sent me this copy. We had him on last week. This is came in the mail today, and a great preview magazine. So thank you for his time, and also thank you for sending us a piece of what your knowledge is all about for the upcoming season. Now, SEC Media Days in Tampa, Florida. Next year, they'll be in Knoxville, Tennessee. They used to be in Hoover, Alabama, and before that, Alabama, Birmingham area. But they started SEC Media Days today. And, of course, you knew that there was going to be something, but was there anything new today other than the commissioner, Greg Sankey, doubling down or validating even some of what he thinks or what the conference that he represents might think? First of all, on the SEC strength of schedule, this eventually gets to the college football playoff, and that was something he discussed as well. This was what Greg Sankey said about the SEC strength of schedule, confidence. How much does he have in the college football selection committee representing or recognizing their schedule strength? I'm actually one who believes competitors want a great challenge. We have heard about strength of schedule, strength of record. We had what I would call an unsatisfactory conversation with the college football playoff staff at the spring meetings. We have questions about them understanding the strength of the SEC. Knew that would be brought up. There's also a comment about the possible breakaway. We'll get to that in a minute. Craig Smoak.
Yeah, I think this is a drum that Greg Sankey's been beating for a while now, but I don't know what they expect the College Football Playoff Committee to do more than what they're doing. I mean, are we supposed to count your losses as just one loss and everybody else's losses as two losses because they're not playing the level of team? Now, I understand his basic original point is that they play a tougher schedule, which I think the Big Ten can maybe argue with. Some of their draws play a similar schedule. But, yeah, I think the SEC from top to bottom probably plays the toughest schedule across the board. So that's valid, and you are the spokesperson for the SEC, so you're speaking from that vantage point. But we've been hearing this for at least a couple of years now, and yeah, it's still a talking point because I guess they feel like it hasn't been adequately addressed. I also believe competitors want a great challenge, and I'm also thrilled that the SEC is moving to 9 games, even though a lot of people are afraid that it might actually backfire and hurt them a little bit. But in part of doing that is they're trying to make losses mean a lot less because now they know a lot of their teams are going to be taking more losses because they're now playing 9 conference games. So I don't know what his solution is to feeling like their schedule strength is being validated by the committee. Is it to allow in a team that's lost 3 or 4 games to say, hey, typically we wouldn't do this, but you played an SEC schedule, so, hey, your 3 or 4 count the same as everybody else's 2. Is that what you're wanting to see? Is it wanting to see a team that's got 3 or 4 losses put into the playoff, whereas that probably wouldn't fly in any other league, probably not even in the Big Ten either, unless that happened to be some miracle schedule where your losses were to like top 10 Oregon, top 10 Indiana, top 10 Ohio State, something along those lines. Like, what are you wanting to be shown to show that you are getting the validation that you receive? That's the part I don't understand, because they typically get the benefit of the doubt. There's a couple of times where they haven't, but for the most part, the SEC usually gets more than everybody else at the table in every single category imaginable, including the college football playoff. So I understand there's been a couple years ago with Alabama, although somebody can pinpoint you and draw you a chart of why, Alabama didn't deserve to make the playoff a couple years ago. Or maybe it's some other grievance that they have. But this is something they've been pounding the table on. You knew it was going to be a bigger topic, especially with them lining up to play 9 conference games now. So in theory, there's going to be a lot more teams having at least one more loss on that schedule. So he's trying to fight for their territory, and I understand that part of it, but I just don't know what the solution to it is.
Yeah, and it used to be they could also use that and then say we've won all the national championships, which they did over almost 2 decades. They did. There's no doubt about it. But they haven't won the last 3 years. I even saw a few responses about, well, the Big Ten's winning. I think Eli Drinkwitz made a comment about the Big Ten maybe winning national championships because they're not having to play the overall non-conference schedule. Let's not act like that. There are SEC and Big Ten teams that play alphas, each other. There's no doubt they'll do it again this year. But the 9 SEC games, which is what everyone wanted to see the SEC do. Not every SEC coach wants it, but they do play each other 9 games. Now, Dave Bartu threw this out there. We got more from, this is from Bartu. There's no quote here or tweet. Let me ask you this. Dave Bartu said this, Greg. Does it automatically make teams better than they are for playing a tougher schedule? Why does the schedule now matter so much more than it did the last 125 years?
Because they're a bit more vulnerable than they were prior. I think that's the big thing is I do think it matters that the Big Ten's won 3 straight national titles and the SEC being able to walk in the room and just throw their what's on the table and just command everybody to bow and respect them. Those days are over with because of the drought. And it's not like there won't be a Georgia or a Texas that aren't maybe even winning it this year, or at least certainly in the mix for it amongst some other teams. But I think they're vulnerable. They see that they're not bulletproof like they were seemingly there for most of the 2000s and the 2010s and even the start of the 2020s. They don't have that kind of sway like they did when they were undeniably the best conference based on year after year after year of national championships. So I think that you've got to pound the table and try to give yourself the best advantage. And by constantly yelling at the sky that nobody respects you enough because your schedule is so much harder than everybody, you're hoping you eventually convince somebody to give you that benefit of the doubt so that, yes, your 3-loss team that typically wouldn't get in any other league now gets in and gives you 6, 7 teams in the field. I think that's what it is. You're just posturing. You're trying to give yourself the best advantage that you can, but it starts to fall on deaf ears when people go and rightfully point out, well, what's your record versus Power 4 teams in the postseason? It's not good, especially here in the last couple of years. What's your record in this format or that format as far as bowl games go? And it's not like they just dominate. I mean, the numbers for the 20 years that they were on top are great. The last 3-4 years, as things have shifted, are not quite the same, but they're wanting to act like it's still what it was before the Big Ten went on this run. So I think that, they just don't have the argument that's unbeatable that they used to. And so now they're trying to position, the strength of schedule is so much tougher, and that's part why we should be rewarded more so than some other team if they have this number of losses. But I think they really put themselves in a jam agreeing to this 9 games. I think they did, because there's going to be more losses guaranteed on the schedule for everybody because now you're having to play each other. So, I think it's just Greg Sankey doing his job, but I think most of the college football world just views it as whining, quite frankly.
It's not just Greg Sankey, because some of the coaches have said this as well. We'll get to that in 1 second. Also, Sankey said, considering a 2014 playoff, we don't have any idea in the clear media interest in an expanded playoff. We do know what happened when we went to 12. Second, the calendar is challenging. You have to find places to play. The game access point is important. There's some things I disagree with him. He's right. Until you have all of the data or all of what might be as far as financially, they're going to make more money if they go from 12 to 16 or 24. But you don't just jump into it. One of the things that's happened a lot in college athletics is that people just like rules have been made, et cetera. And then you're like, oh, damn, we gotta deal with this. Sankey also made this comment. talking about him today because it's SEC Media Days that opened up in Tampa. We're not interested in finding the easiest path. We're focused on finding the right path. A not so subtle message, of course, lobbying for easier road to the playoff, which has been out there being discussed by some who say 24. Okay, I don't want 24 because I think it's too much, but I'm not going to cry if they go there. But is it to go to 24 because more money, or is it to go to 24 because more teams get access because that's double? Or what? I don't know. Or maybe 12's not doing them, or those who want 24 doing enough good for the game.
12's perfectly fine. I think it's been A-okay, if not great in some cases. I think there's tweaks that you can make, more home games in the format that would make it better. I think that there's ways to continue to tweak maybe how you get to the playoff, and there's where that conference championship game weekend discussion's kind of been floating out there for a couple of years. I mean, what are we really going to pretend like we don't know exactly? Yeah, it's more money. Of course, it's more money. It's every answer to everything they try to do is more money. I mean, I love the sport, but I also know what it is and what it's always been. And yeah, it's about the money. So why are they going to 24 teams when 12 is entirely adequate? Sure, you can say because more teams have an opportunity, but then what does that create? It creates more games, more inventory for TV networks, more home games at stadiums that now you can sell for playoff prices. It creates more TV ratings to then put on your resume for when you go shop for the next TV network deal. Like, it all revolves around money and everything that comes with that. So yeah, that's why we're having a conversation about the playoff expanding yet again. And any argument that it's for like the betterment of the game or whatever is just a bunch of phooey. Like it's clear what's going on here, and they'll get to 24. And then I'm sure in a couple years, if that goes pretty smoothly, like 12 has for the most part, then we're going to hear something about 32. Oh, well, let's have a nice round number. And that way Ohio State doesn't not have a home game. They get to have a home game now. And then, at some point they'll just want to be March Madness because that's the only way to keep making money. And so, like, I saw this thing the other day on Netflix, how Netflix shareholders are starting to get upset because they're not getting the return on their investment. And it's like, eventually there's no more to squeeze. Like, there's not any more to squeeze. You have like 200 million people subscribed. You can't force the whole world to subscribe to Netflix. But because they've made so much money and they've had so many subscribers, like, now it's still not enough, right? They got to still get the shareholders need to see more and more and more. And that's what these schools are like. And what these leaders are like, where it's got to constantly be growing and evolving. So yeah, the playoff expansion is a chase for more money. And I understand that part of that's not just selfishness, it's also necessity because you need more money. It's not just trying to pad your pockets if you're the AD or whoever. It's also trying to pay your players. It's trying to pay your players and put a good product on the field so that your fans keep showing up for games. It's trying to get your fans to keep donating money on top of that so that you can do stadium improvements and all those sorts of things. But yeah, it's a big money grab, but the SEC very clearly is just trying to position itself to where they get the benefit of the doubt. And they are looked at as, no matter what, they had the hardest schedule, whichever team we're talking about. They are the best top to bottom. And if there's ever a crossroads where you're like, well, should they get yes, they should. They should give it the benefit of the doubt because their schedule is so extremely difficult compared to BYU or to Virginia Tech or to whoever it is. So he's posturing for his conference. And that's not surprising because that's what he does.
That's what his job is. But the other thing that Greg Sankey that was brought up, in fact, I think this was the first question after he kind of gave a summary of how many viewers and how much money and all the other things that they have. And they have a lot, but they just don't have the last 3 national championships and didn't even get to those games, which is even sometimes you forget about that. But he was asked about the possibility that with the SEC, and they're not the only one, kind of fed up with either the lack of guidance, leadership, or whatever structure that the NCAA has. And even if they've tried, they still can't seem to get out of their own way and or get sued. Sankey was asked about how legitimate is any discussion that the SEC might create their own set of governance and their own breakaway.
So you phrased the question of how real. So I'll take that as like real or not real. So they're real. People have talked about that. They've opined about the frustrations that bring them to the point of saying we should look at something significantly different. I do not believe that is a leverage point. I think that's just honest communication. I would prefer that stay in a meeting room or on a video conference and not be part of the D1 ticker the next morning, but I don't control all of that. Eddie, what I think is important is those comments represent a high level of frustration with the circumstance in which we find ourselves. We have regulated ourselves more aggressively than other colleagues by choice across our league. We've had different academic eligibility restrictions in the past. So we've had different transfer restrictions in the past. So some of what you hear comes out of a culture that we can regulate ourselves. But the frustration that exists is when you go to a meeting 8 years ago, we want to change the volunteer coach rule in a Division I setting, and the Division I membership can't see their way through change, and so that creates risk. I think some of the transition into this 5-year eligibility model, that it happened when it did and the way it did, that magnifies frustration. We went through a college football playoff discussion for years and introduced a 12-team playoff where it just sat because colleagues couldn't move. And they had reasons, but those reasons really didn't resonate. And so understand that beneath the observation is frustration. But I also know the pride with which I spoke of 13 national championships, and there is meaning and value. And I do think a national expectation that we participate in a national organization. But that national organization must function in a healthy manner. Otherwise, that simmering will continue.
So let me repeat what he said at the end. There is meaning and value. I do think the national expectation is that we participate in a national organization. In other words, the SEC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, ACC, and everybody else under the same umbrella. But the national organization must function in a healthy manner. Otherwise, the simmering will continue. He's absolutely right that the NCAA, regardless of if they want it, well, yeah, but get it fixed. And if you can't, then there's going to be most likely a fracture in some particular way. And I can see why a conference would want to do that. I don't think Sankey wants to have a 20-team SEC that wins a national title. I think he wants to have an SEC that wins a national title from a national type of, like it is now with 130 teams.
Yeah, I mean, you can interpret it that way. I don't think there's anything that indicates that national couldn't be like 30 teams just from all over the country. I don't know what his real definition of it would be, but I could see where that would still apply, the same as trying to include every Power 4 conference. I don't think that Iowa State has to be involved, and I don't mean to just randomly knock them, but I don't think he's thinking about Iowa State being a necessity to be a national. We got Iowa. We could just have, we're covering Iowa already. So yeah, I don't know what his real idea of a national conference looks like. Does it have to be a certain number of teams? Does it have to touch a certain number of states? If you have 25 of the top programs, is that not national? And is that not probably right up?
How many? What'd you say? 20?
Like 25. The top 25 programs are all in the same.
Yeah,
I mean,
everybody has an opinion. You have one, I have one, the chat has one.
Well, this isn't my talk on the
Sankey
super conference. This isn't my opinion on what a super conference looks like, which is, I've said every single time, is just my opinion on what that definition means. And my opinion is different from other people's. That's a super league conversation. This is him talking about a national conference. If you have 25 of the top programs in the country and they're touching 22 different states, is that not a national conference?
Oh yeah, I don't know. It's not a national conference, but it gets close to one. Yes,
I think it's pretty national. I mean, if you're going from, depending on what that would look like, if you got from California to Florida, it's pretty national.
If you do 20 something states touching each other, you can't there's going to be a gap somewhere. I'm just talking about the national map. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, but there's a gap already. There's no Rhode Island team that we're all surrounding ourselves around, or Montana, or
South Dakota, North
right.
Dakota.
Yeah. So my point is, you're going to have all the biggest markets, all the biggest brands. If you do some Big Ten, SEC, Super League type thing, and that would be a national conference. It might not be the best version of college football, but that could still apply to whatever he's saying there. My point being that he's vague, and so I don't know what his real intentions are, but I do understand his frustrations, and they've been the same frustrations that we've been talking about ad nauseum. And I realized how much I hate going back to this like as soon as you started playing that clip, because I enjoy hearing what he has to say. And I understand the importance of the conversation, especially this particular conversation, but I just don't want to fall back into, well, they don't ever do anything. And we start getting into the NCAA. But I mean, I guess my question would be, so if you feel like you need to break away and go do something else because the NCAA just simply can't pass rules and have them followed and actually uphold them and actually punish teams, is whatever you're going to do instead, is that going to tell Ole Miss that no, Trinidad Chambliss cannot play this year, no matter what the court says? Or is there still going to be lawsuits like that? Nope, sorry, Owen Heineke, according to our Super League, cannot file for another year of eligibility. Or will that be like, what's going to make you any different from what it already is? Are all the courts going to go, well, we could totally police the other thing, but
forget about the courts. The attorneys are going to stop suing to get a kid an extra year of eligibility.
Right. So, I'm assuming this must go along with some antitrust certification where you know that you're going to be able to have some sort of Save College Sports Act that helps you actually enforce these rules. Because if you don't have something along those lines, which I know you don't totally agree with, because you've made it very clear, Greg Sankey, and various others, that you're not totally on board with Cody Campbell's idea or Ted Cruz's idea or whatever, what are you going to do that's going to be different? Are you going to have the politicians already lined up to be able to allow you to enforce things the way you want to? If you've got that lined up, then yeah, that's probably way easier for you and a lot less stressful. But I just fail to see how it's going to be all that different, that suddenly because you break away, all of your coaches are going to listen and follow the rules now, because there will be real punishment. And that Tennessee, if they get dinged for something, won't turn around like they did versus the NCAA and then sue whatever organization you're a part of, right? So that's where I understand his frustration, and every person we talk to voices their frustration about things. We as fans voice our frustrations about the portal or whatever, but while they've made all these attempts, there's clearly not a unanimous thing that's out there that everybody's in agreement on. And so I just wonder how what they would do would be, again, any different. Would they go and make everybody employees, so therefore it would be easier to establish rules?
No, they would have to. There would have to be an agreement on the employment or the collective bargaining or players union or something. Something that now you can't do or no one wants to do or they don't feel like they can get to it. Some of that would have to be done.
Because if you're the Coca-Cola League instead of the NCAA, what do they have that the NCAA doesn't to enforce things? So he wants them to police themselves.
A signature. Remember that not everybody signed the House settlement. Remember, not everybody agreed to that. If you join or you're part of a 20 to 40, whatever league it is, you sign a piece of paper. That means that some of what you could possibly do, lawsuit or suing or getting your way outside of the conference rules, is null and void. And I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's something that everybody's going to still agree to do.
Well, then it can't be a part of the league.
I mean, yeah, in theory, but yeah, it seems like they want to almost have like a private league, a more corporate league where you would have things in place that would allow you to actually enforce things. I'm definitely all for that. So they've obviously done a lot of thinking about this. I do think that some of the breakaway threats are threats to ultimately get what they want. I would not be somebody who would just go, oh my God, we've got to make sure we get this done or else the SEC is going to break away. I would be sitting there weighing, and I still weigh how much they're actually bluffing and how much it's realistic that they would split off and go do something else. And I have no doubts they in the Big Ten have at least had some conversations, even if they're over martinis at a cocktail bar after NCAA meetings or something between the two commissioners. Like, I'm sure there's been discussion about it. over the last few years. But yeah, I mean, show me what that looks like, and maybe it's a better setup, and maybe it's the way to go. But I wonder how you're going to be able to do any different than what's already being done, unless you have some bill that allows you to have everybody on the same page.
If there's, again, 18 to 36 or 40, whatever it is, everyone who joins or is invited and is allowed to be a part of the Super League will have to sign off that they will do the rules. Does that mean that we'll use Ole Miss as an example? We'll use whoever. I don't know. I don't know how
but it's not even,
you block legal. Can you block the legal system from getting involved?
But it doesn't even matter if everybody agrees to it. If you're still doing things that can be sued over, then what is – I mean,
that's what I'm saying. No, that's why there's so much that goes into –
Right. So is every player going to sign an agreement? Like, I will not sue over a 6-year of eligibility. I will not sue over NIL money. I will not sue. Yep. So, like, those are the loose ends that I just think of when we start hearing this big ominous threat about the breakaway. I think it's a very realistic possibility. I just don't think it's going to happen, like, next year. And I do think there is a little bit of posturing and kind of bluffing over, well, you better or else I will. And, you know, sometimes that's actually a real threat. And sometimes that's somebody just trying to be able to get their way and hoping you won't call out their bluff. So that's the dangerous game you're playing if you're Charlie Baker and company. But I don't know really what else you can do about it other than just give them what they want. But maybe that was the intention the entire time. So This is the same guy who, as we started off talking about with his playoff conversation, has said that a 9-3 LSU team should get in over most other leagues' 1- and 2-loss teams. And so he's looking at it from the SEC perspective.
He's looking at it based on what the ADs, presidents, and coaches are saying. I don't know. Paxton just put up something in the chat, Craig, about that he's serious. I don't think Sankey wants that. I think he wants to do everything. I really do. I think I could be wrong. He wants to do everything possible for this thing to somehow eventually manage everybody together as far as whatever that chunk will be, 130 or 64 or 5. It's the ADs, it's the coaches who are the ones that I think are barking up his tree.
No, they definitely are, because he's not the shot caller. He's the guy that answers to them. Yep. So, yeah, let's not I've talked about this before. He's not the president of college football or even of the SEC. He's the spokesperson and the commissioner. But, yeah, so I think you're right. You would have legally binding contracts and all those things. And I do think it's a legit threat. I also think, though, it's fair to say that they don't have their ducks all in a row and will be ready to do that tomorrow. But I do think in general, if you're a team in the Big 12 or the ACC or whatever, and you're scared about being left behind or left out, yeah, you better hope that some solution gathers sooner rather than later, because I do think the longer this goes, there will be a plan in place to one day go, all right, tomorrow we're announcing that we're breaking off and we're doing this new privatized, contract-riddled, like completely locked down, no way to sue, whatever type of league where it all makes sense and people actually follow rules. I do think that's in the works to some degree. I don't know who all it entails, but I do think, yes, the SEC and the Big Ten would be a part of whatever that was. I just don't know how long it would take to actually bring that to fruition. And I do think he's at least putting out there, like, yes, we're still willing to play ball, but you guys we're gonna have to come up with something, or else then this becomes much, much more real. I don't think it's what they want to do, but I think it's what they might have to do.
Otherwise, that simmering will continue.
Yeah.
NCAA, as if they don't know, you need to figure it out, because I have guys barking up my tree. Here's another one. In fact, Eli Drinkwitz, Missouri football coach, he's pretty good. They're not bad at all. They've been successful. They haven't been able to get to that next level, but they've been successful in knocking on the door. He is very much outspoken. That doesn't mean I agree with everything he said, but what he did say was, here's what he said about the SEC and how those in the coaching business look at adding an extra conference game from 8 to 9.
Fortunately, Josh had a setback with his injury, and so he's still attacking it.
That's not it. It's not going to be. I may have been too wrong. That's it. That's not it. What he basically said was there are already coaches. He mentioned Lane Kiffin as already grumbling. And I'm not saying complaining, because that doesn't mean about regretting letting the schedule go from 8 to 9 games already. Eli Drinkwitz said Lane Kiffin was the one that he mentioned. Kiffin, that wouldn't surprise me. It could have mentioned Kirby Smart. I don't know, but that is something that there's already some sort of buyer's remorse on going from 8 to 9. The coaches aren't the ones who made that decision. The ADs and the presidents made that decision. And I can understand that if you are any of the 16 teams of the SEC, all of a sudden your next extra game is Georgia or it's Texas or someone like that, or Oklahoma. I can see if you're a football coach that's like, oh, damn, that's one more game that we don't. And then, of course, you lost a non-conference game along the way.
Yeah, this is also a guy that said committees are a bad idea for deciding who should get into like the playoffs, basically, and that it's meant to be decided on the field, but there's no way to do that. Like, we try to do that, and then you have at the conference that says, no, our 3 counts the same as your 2. Well, I thought it was decided on the field. Well, no, but the schedule's strong, and like that's why it's not just simplistic like that. I think that most SEC coaches probably do already regret this because there is going to be more losses. There's just going to be. Somebody's going to have to play LSU that wasn't playing LSU. They were going to play Tarleton State.
Yep.
Somebody's going to play Georgia that wasn't going to play Georgia. They were going to play South Carolina State. There's going to be more losses, and then there's going to be other teams that get a big win. Now, maybe it all balances out in the end, but this is exactly why Greg Sankey's already trying to massage the playoff committee, make them out to be the bad guy that's out to get them, and make their schedule look like the toughest thing known to man, so that when you start to weigh the fact that they do have more losses, that's actually still as good, but actually better than Texas Tech's 1 loss, Georgia's 3, or whatever it may be. So, yeah, they're preparing for the obvious that there is going to be more losses on people's records, and it's going to be a much tougher road. And for somebody like Eli Drinkowitz, whose job is to win football games, you now have made his job a little bit more difficult for at least one more week, where you were probably counting on as close to a guaranteed win as there would have been, is now instead, or maybe it was a competitive non-con game, but is now instead playing Tennessee in Knoxville, something along those lines. So, yeah, I think that's a natural reaction by a coach who knows that his job's just gotten much tougher, and his job not only got tougher as far as making a bowl game, but in winning the SEC and getting to the playoff, all those things have become more difficult. So what's the best bet? Hey, Greg, go tell everybody how this extra game should actually be like, we should be given the benefit of the doubt for it. And I do think we're going to look back on 4 years, probably won't even take that long, and there will be a deep dive on, like, was this the best decision? There's a lot of people that feel like this was a poor decision. I like it just from the standpoint of everybody playing the same number of games. Like, I just want that to be the case across the board. But I don't dismiss any SEC fan who says, well, we're playing them. Like, yeah, you arguably are. There's some schools that, yeah, absolutely, if not most of them, are playing much tougher schedules than everybody else. So the reason for Sankey to say that is valid, especially as a commissioner of that league. But they did it to themselves. I mean, and they did it as a way to kind of – you can't say they never did anything, right? You can't say they never like gave a little here and there. I mean, I think, yes, they're giving themselves more money in the long run with an extra SEC game and probably a better TV deal in the future to go along with that by having 9 league games. But they also do handicap themselves potentially a little bit. So that's going to be one part of seeing the committee this year, is how they weigh that 9th SEC game. And they're already politicking and setting up the framework for how that should be viewed.
By the way, one other note on Missouri. I'm not sure if you saw this, Craig. Ahmad Hardy, remember he was shot in the early part of the summer, has been cleared to start working out that could be as long as a 5 to 8 week return to play procedure. That according to Eli Drinkwitz today at SEC Media Days, All-American, phenomenal player, and 5 to 8 weeks to return to play procedure. There's a long road back for him. Thank God he's had a chance to at least do that, because he may not even be here today. But that was also a note from SEC Media Days with Coach Drinkwitz at Missouri.
Yeah, I mean, that's great news. That was obviously something that could have been much, much worse and a real tragedy. And so the fact that Ahmad Hardy's here with us is the first big thing that matters most. But, yeah, the fact that he could be playing football some point this year is pretty incredible. And, yeah, hats off to the doctors that took care of him and all those people part of his support system. Yeah, that's a real tragedy averted. So that's great for Ahmad Hardy. and look forward to possibly seeing him at some point this year. And if we do, that's going to be a great moment when he gets out there for the very first time. So now that I've been nice about that, can I go back to Eli for just a second here?
Yeah, we have. Okay, let me tell you, Pat Smith will join us, three-man front. He has been kind of anchoring the SEC Media Days from Birmingham, where he resides, for the radio station WJOX. And then we'll have Chris Vanini, who's also a part of that, today at 4. Maybe Trey Wallace, who's in Tampa, at around 5. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Drinkwitz is also somebody that, surprise, surprise, is open to playoff expansion. Because why? Because it makes his job easier. So he's like, yeah, let's go to 24. Let's go to 30. So, yeah, it's not surprising to hear him say that. I know that he's talked at length about playoff ideas, and he said that he would like to eliminate the selection committee, isn't opposed to getting rid of the SEC championship game. He says they should increase the field by 2 or 4, that increasing the field by 2 or 4 is inconsequential. The ideal model would allocate 4 guaranteed spots each to the Big Ten and ACC, and then 3 ACC, 3 Big 12, so on and so forth. He said, if we're going to do something, and this was from back in July of last year, if we're going to do something monumental, do something monumental, think outside the box, la-di-da-di-da. Basically, I just want to know, my point is, and circling back to it, is what would you have them do? It can't be settled entirely on the field. I guess BCS rankings, is that what we would do to decide the playoff field? Because guess who that would really be advantageous towards? A team like the one Eli Drinkwitz coaches, who's going to have the strength of schedule argument, and that would look nice in the computer model. What would also benefit Eli Drinkwitz? A bigger playoff selection group. He's not a fan of the committee, but I would love to hear people's alternatives, or what his alternative to that would be, outside of just going straight computers.
Eventually, it might go backwards. It might go to where they were before they had the 14 playoff, which is the computer rankings that started back after the tie between Nebraska and Michigan for a title in 1997. Let's ask some of our guests. Pat Smith, he'll join us from Birmingham. We'll have Chris Vanini. We appreciate your time. There's a lot to get to, including yesterday in Houston at the Texas High School Coaches Association convention, where Steve Sarkisian and Joey McGuire, Mike Elko, and others were on a panel, a college football panel, and sitting, yes, Sark and Joey right next to each other. People think that they might hate each other. They might disagree at times. This is the Smoak Show on 365 Sports. Home Place Interiors. I played golf yesterday with John Proctor, opened up that business 20-plus years ago on Lake Air Drive in Waco. And I asked him again about, when you walk in the front door, they've got rugs and carpets and window treatment and all that other stuff. I said, you have this room off to the right that's got all these beautiful, like, gorgeous colored rugs. Are they from Pakistan? He said, oh, they're from Pakistan, but they're from other countries around the world too, that they get their rugs from. You can pick and choose from that, or you can go online and they can help you, the staff, with Selena and Stephanie, John, Katie, and others to pick out the rug or the carpet that you want. A selection of area rugs, the largest of anybody in town. It's rug season every day for Home Place Interiors on Lake Air Drive. They can help you with all the flooring and carpet needs. They also have a vast selection of wood, tile, and carpet and vinyl plank flooring, and their knowledgeable staff can help you with that. I have a condo that is a lot of wooden floor. There's some vinyl or tile as well, but there's some wooden floor that I'm not so sure. I may need to change, maybe get treated, and if that doesn't work, possibly completely redo it. That is an option. I can do that at Home Place Interiors. 5-star previews and reviews all throughout their website, which is on Lake Air Drive, homeplaceinteriorstx.com.
Green Texas weather calls for Ray Broker, your Lennox premier dealer. Sign up for our year-round comfort plan and keep your home the perfect temperature no matter what the forecast is. Call or visit raybroker.com now. Ray Broker, your air conditioning and heating specialist.
Make this the summer event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get behind the wheel of an iconic new Dodge Charger RT and score $5,000 in savings. First responders and military members get an extra $500 bonus. Allen Samuels Dodge.
Come by, let's be friends.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. DFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. DFNB, your bank for life.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
If you need legal advice on medical malpractice or personal injury, 18-wheeler accidents, or criminal, probate, and estate planning and transactional work, including private equity acquisitions, buying and selling businesses, and employment agreements, please contact David Dumas at the David Dumas Law Firm at daviddumaslawfirm.com. This 3 o'clock hour is brought to you by QC Kinetics. Feel better, move better, live better with regenerative medicine using your body's own healing abilities for natural pain relief. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. With locations in Dallas and Houston at QCkinetics.com. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and David Smoak.
SEC Media Days, as we mentioned, started earlier today in Tampa, runs for 4 days with the teams that they have, 4 at a time over the next 3 days after today. Pat Smith, WJOX, Birmingham, the mothership of all motherships, and also co-host of Three Man Front, joins us from Birmingham with us on 365 Sports. Pat, thank you very much for your time. Was there anything that Sankey said today that, like, you said, oh, that's a little bit different than I thought, or that you did not know he'd bring up?
Well, I'll be honest with you guys. It was kind of shocking, to be honest with you. I mean, when he makes the statement about the frustrations, and it's bringing to the point where the conference could look at potentially doing something significant, i.e. breaking away. You know, those type comments are like saber rattling because of everything going on in D.C. So most of us believed, okay, those type comments are going to be walked back a tad, and they weren't. He had multiple opportunities after what he said on the main stage. He had some other interviews that went on with other outlets, and he did not back off that statement, guys. That was kind of shocking to us, because that's telling us that the presidents and the chancellors, they've got one message for everybody. And one thing is for sure, the SEC is serious that if this Protect College Sports Act does go forward and the Big Ten and the SEC don't get their way, you could see something very radical.
Pat, how would they go about, if they were to do this, ensuring that they would have the ability to do what they're looking for this to do? And I guess what I mean is, when they're looking at the Protect or Save or whatever Sports Act, they're saying they want antitrust exemption. They're saying they want this, that, and the other, and they're addressing the lack of that language as to why they're not supporting some of these efforts. What would guarantee that they would be able to accomplish those things if they were to split away and do that on their own?
Well, those are extremely important items that you just brought up. But the main two sticking points, one is they do not want to be, let's just say, put into a box in regards to expansion. Now, the SEC is perfectly happy with what they currently have. They're not actively looking to pursue other teams. But one thing is for sure, we've seen it before. Things change. So the SEC wants to, perhaps look in the future and say, hey, if Clemson or Florida State or Miami becomes available, we want to be able to have the ability to increase, obviously, our payload to our network partner, which is ESPN. So they don't like the fact that that bill is going to limit them potentially on what they can do in expansion. Now, the second part of that, they do not want to become the socialization in regards to media and the rights of what they get from ESPN and Disney. They don't want all that money to be pulled to go pay for Conference USA or the Sun Belt Conference or the Mountain West. They feel like them in the Big Ten. They've done enough over the last 20 to 25 years. They got a great product, and they should be able to go to market and get as much money as they can. So they don't like the fact that that bill currently would make that into a situation where both of those leagues would not be able to get the max out of their effort.
Yeah, you get what you earn what your value is. And I understand. I have no problem with the Big Ten or the SEC getting more TV revenue. They have huge stadiums, great ratings and all of that. The question is, when does it makes sense, Pat, to think about you're that good where you could split away when you have your footprint and you don't have let's say half the country, as whether or not you could go have your own league or your own national championship?
Well, one thing is for sure, the SEC being in the Eastern and the Central time zone, that plays very well to ESPN. Listen, there's no doubt about it. Outside of football, then it becomes a problematic situation because you're talking about playing for a national championship. I think everybody can crow about the SEC, what they could do from a football standpoint in crowning their own national champion. But when you talk about all those other sports, whether it's March Madness, or whether it's the college baseball in Omaha, whatever the case may be, that becomes a little bit more tedious in regards to what you put together. Listen, we all know that football, every 8 out of 10 cents that's generated comes from college football, especially in the Southeastern Conference. So they understand, the chancellors and the presidents do, that at the end of the day, they've got to do what's best for football, and everything else might have to fall down a little bit in the pecking order in regards to a national perspective. But as long as you have Disney and as long as you have ESPN in that outlet, just like the Big Ten has Fox as their outlet, those TV folks are going to listen very closely to what they want and their desires. And I think that's where the SEC continues to beat that drum if things don't go well in Washington, D.C.
So, Pat, he talked about the value of having a national organization, but I was kind of talking about, like, well, what's his definition of that? Because you could combine the top 2 conferences, and that's pretty national. Like, you could pass that off for national. I know it would exclude a lot of teams, but obviously not as national as all of the Power 4 sticking together or some combination thereof. What do you think a national organization is in Greg Sankey's mind?
Well, I think, listen, first off, let me just say this. For everything we've just been talking about for the last 3 to 5 minutes, Greg Sankey does care overall about the health of intercollegiate athletics. I will tell you that. I've known Greg Sankey a very long time. He was Mike Slive's right-hand guy before Mike Slive stepped down and Greg took over. This guy cares. I know there's a lot of people out there that say, hey, listen, the SEC needs to do what's right for college sports. Well, I mean, listen, you guys have talked about it on your show. Your mark is paid by the presidents and the chancellors of the Big 12 Conference. Greg Sankey is paid by the presidents and the chancellors of the SEC. He's going to do what first and foremost is best and what he works at the pleasure of those presidents to do. With that being said, he does not want to be the guy that is going to destroy the fabric and the framework of what we know as intercollegiate athletics. But the NCAA's guys, they've done a pretty good job over the course of the last 5 years with all the failed lawsuits and with these ridiculous rulings that they've had. So, you know what? The SEC is trying to look out for their own, just like Brett Yormark and Jim Phillips, just like, you know, obviously Tony Petitti are trying to do. But I think in the long run, he would love to see everybody still continue to play the 138 teams in Division I football, but under obviously a much different set of rules, especially when it comes to obviously the NIL, the transfer portal, and those other things that have become a daily topic of conversation amongst your show and my show.
Yeah, and I've reiterated this. We played part of Sankey's audio from earlier today. Otherwise, that simmering will continue. And that is pointing a finger at the leadership or lack of it and the constant turmoil of nobody knows what the hell you can or cannot do.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's the thing. You know, and I was listening to you guys earlier, and you guys were talking about the 9-game schedule in the SEC. And I know this kind of breaks away from what you were just talking about in regards to the national perspective. But see, the SEC was sold a bill of goods by ESPN and Disney. For years, they kept saying, hey, look, we want more inventory. We want more inventory. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. Because everybody now is so cash strapped, we're going to give you anywhere between $3 and $5 million a school. We're going to give you an extra credit. We're going to give you an extra game on the conference schedule that we can sell, and then we're going to pay you guys. Well, you know, the coaches were like, you know what, as long as the college football playoff committee, as long as they're going to give us credit for the strength of schedule, the strength of record, you know, part of their metrics, we're going to be okay with that. Well, guess what happened? ESPN cut the deal, and now all of a sudden, the college football playoff committee is still in chaos. We have no idea what goes on behind closed doors, and now the coaches believe they've been sold a bill of goods, and they're pissed. That's why in Destin they were pissed. Now they're pissed down there. You heard Drinkwitz today. That is going to continue to be the beating of the drum because they believe that, you know what, we could have stayed at 8 and we'd have been able to continue to have 4 or 5 teams in the college football playoff. But now they believe they're going to be penalized because you're going to have a bunch of 9-3 teams that all of a sudden it's going to be debated incessantly whether they're good enough to play.
Which therefore leads us to Greg Sankey going so hard on strength of schedule, right? And this committee and how all of that works, because they're going to have an extra 9-3 team, Pat, that otherwise might have been 10-2, and they want to make sure that 9-3 team gets in over 11-1 BYU because they played Georgia and LSU.
No, you're absolutely right. And listen, I have been telling my audience for the last year and a half, we have got to get ready in the Southeastern Conference for the NFL mentality. These days of going 12-0, 11-1, or maybe even 10-2 for the likes of some of these blue bloods is going to go by the wayside. The reason why is because of the parity, because of the transfer portal and NIL, it's equaled the playing field. So now you're going to have that debate of a 9-3 team is better than 11-1 BYU. That's what's going to happen now, because until they get the strength of schedule or the SOR figured out with the College Football Playoff Committee, that's going to be a problem moving forward. Listen, back in late May, when they had the SEC spring meetings in Destin, the college football playoff guys, they were down there. And Sankey referenced today the unsatisfactory discussions that the college football playoff had with everyone in the room. So guess what? Kirby Smart, everybody's like going, well, this is crap. You guys have made us play a 9th extra game, and now we're in a position of where we might not even make the playoffs. So yeah, man, there's a lot of people just wringing their hands right now wondering what the heck's going on, especially with the CFP.
It's one thing is what, like you brought up, you're right, that the concern that 9-3 or whatever it might be may not be good enough to get in. It wasn't last year, but our fan base is also starting to understand that 9-3 might be more the norm than the 12-0s and 11-1s because, well, one, there's many more games, but the NFL style of winning like a division or a conference or whatever that gets you to advance in a playoff?
Slowly but surely, I think the fan bases are starting to understand that because, listen, in my neck of the woods, I cover Alabama and Auburn on a daily basis, okay? It used to be this. The Iron Bowl was the most important game in the history of the world. Well, now both universities say, well, you know what? We're okay with losing that game as long as we can maybe get to Atlanta or get to the college football playoff. Then all of a sudden that becomes the bigger piece of the pie, so to speak, for these individual institutions. And that's kind of shocking to me because it's always about the Alabama-Auburn game and who's going to get the bragging rights in my state. And now all of a sudden it's all about the CFP. You're trying to put yourself in a position to get there. So the fans are slowly kind of coming around to that idea. But I'm telling you, from an Alabama perspective, it is still very shocking for them to lose 2 to 3 games a year. That will never change thanks to Nick Saban.
So, Pat, we were talking a little bit about Eli Drinkwitz and point out the obvious. He's a guy who's not going to make the playoff in a typical year the way things currently are. So, of course, he would want an expanded playoff for job security purposes, as would most other coaches, and just more benefit of the doubt. And I guess, is his idea with the expanded playoff, like play-in games, is that Eli Drinkwitz's point of view? Is that how he would go about doing it? And just kind of what are people's thoughts on how outspoken he's been over the last year or so on all this?
Most people believe it's a complete joke when he opens his mouth and he says that stuff, to be completely honest with you. And the reason why is because he's 0-16 against teams with winning records in SEC play. And so, and that's not a made-up number. That's real. So a lot of people are going, well, of course you want more teams in the college football playoff because you can't beat anybody above 500 in the conference. So, why not create even more and let more teams in? So, listen, I personally like Eli Drinkwitz. I think he's a good football coach, and he continues to get that Kirk Ferentz contract every year in regards to not doing much and continuing to be paid an awful lot of money. And the people in Columbia love him, and he's recruiting well. So we'll see what happens. But I firmly believe the reason why you floated that ridiculous idea a year ago at Media Days was because he knew ultimately for his team to get in the college football playoff, they had to have at least 24 teams.
Right on. Yeah. Okay. So wrapping it up here, Oklahoma, Mizzou, Kentucky, Tennessee went today. I know you got Auburn tomorrow, Alabama on Wednesday. I guess just what are you kind of ears listening for, or what are you looking out for here over the next couple days? Any topics of discussion in particular, or just kind of whatever the wind blows in?
Well, I tell you guys, this league, 9 returning quarterbacks, that's huge. As y'all know, you got to have a top-notch signal caller to be able to compete at the highest level and to win the SEC CFP. You got to have that. The conference as a whole, a lot of talk about Texas. I think when it's all said and done, Texas will be voted as the team that's going to win the conference, which is not settling well with the Georgia people that cover this conference. So, yeah, I think Texas and Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and even Oklahoma's getting a lot of buzz as well. So those are the type of things over the next couple of days we will continue to hear from the coaches and the players.
One other thing, Pat, and thank you very much for your time. LSU just canceled a 2-game series with Arizona State. Alabama canceled the series with Oklahoma State. Is this from the 9-game schedule now in the conference, eliminating games?
No question. Oh, and listen, and you said it earlier on the show with you guys this afternoon. What's going to happen? You're still going to have like your top of the line. For example, Alabama is still going to play Ohio State coming up. That's on the schedule the next couple of years. Alabama, Notre Dame is going to continue. But like you said, Oklahoma State and Alabama, that's not blue blood versus blue blood. So that's going to go by the wayside. LSU and Arizona State. Obviously, Lane Kiffin wants to protect everything down in the Bayou, so he's not going to play a questionable game like that unless it's a higher brow game. So you're absolutely right. You're going to see a lot more, unfortunately, go by the wayside because of this now 9-game SEC conference schedule.
And for teams that are getting games like that canceled, that desperately need to play them, not desperately, but they do. BYU's got Notre Dame this year. Arizona State, they need to play LSU. They may get throttled, they may lose, but if they need those games, they need to win, put those wins up if they get a chance. And to lose those opportunities completely is not a good thing for teams outside the Big Ten and the SEC. Pat, as always, great stuff with what you do. Good luck this week covering the 4 days of the SEC and really 365 days, basically. Thank you.
Guys, always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Pat Smith, WJOX, the 3-man front, does a great job, and great to have him on whenever we possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, good to have him there from their setup and what's going to be a busy 4 days or so from where are they? Tampa, Florida. But I think Pat just kind of confirmed everything we said for the first 45 minutes of, Craig Sankey's threatening to break away and to have something that actually could work properly. Although I think questions do remain on, okay, you can't get antitrust protection involving everybody, but you're going to get it for whatever this setup is. You can't get lawsuits completely stomped out with this configuration currently, but you're going to with the new thing. And so, I think that new thing obviously would involve ironclad contracts and probably bringing in all the lawyers who have been making millions of dollars the last 3-4 years on suing the NCAA for eligibility or NIL or whatever it may be, and sitting down Darren Heitner and saying, all right, help us put together something that can't be broken. Like that's what you would have to do to ensure that you stomp all of those things out. And maybe that's what the plan ultimately is to do. But I would need to see how they would avoid some of the same pitfalls because otherwise you're just breaking away to just separate yourself, not really to change how things work. So I would love to see, and I guess we will probably see how that will all unfold. And either the NCAA will get some parachutes and some politicians drop some things in their laps that help them actually enforce some things, or it's going to get even more contentious and there will be a breakaway potentially.
The healthiest thing to getting something done is something called a deadline. You see these strikes and lockouts or whatever until there's an actual date that is a drop dead date. There's not one yet for college sports, but I think everyone realizes this bill, whether you like it or not, whether you could put bullet holes in it or not, this one doesn't work, there won't be another one.
But I just still don't quite get how this would be any different. I mean, it's still the same schools. It's still the same leadership. It's still the same politicians. I guess if you put less teams together that can agree on more things more easily, then you can find an avenue. But I mean, Pat just basically confirmed what we said throughout the first hour. And yes, Greg Sankey's lobbying for his teams because they are about to lose more games.
That's his job.
Yeah, and that's his job. That's his job. I don't blame him for it, but it's also fair for everybody else out there to say, yeah, but that gives you like a de facto built-in excuse every year. Oh, well, no, we can lose more because of who we are, and that's the problem.
Yeah. They used to say we had national titles, and they have a bunch of them. Now they don't the last 3 years, and so now it's strength of schedule.
Right.
And all of that. All right, Chris Vanini, we'll ask him some of that same stuff, but also a couple other nuggets from Chris Vanini, theathletic.com today. Coming up in the next segment, we do appreciate your time. Hit the like button if you haven't. 365 Sports on YouTube, and this is The Smoak Show. So I'm going to be out of town, getting ready to go on a golf trip on Thursday through Monday up in Utah, St. George, Utah. And I was sitting there like slowly but surely putting together things that I need to make sure that I take. And for the longest time, when I'd go on a trip, whether it was a Super Bowl, media days, or whatever, I did not take my jogging shoes. I did not take something that I was going to actually jog or go run in the morning. And so today I made sure that the jogging shoes that I used this morning, that I put them in a little spot so I can pack them away because I'm going to jog in the morning in Utah. That's what I want to do. Now, the altitude is a little bit different, so that'll be interesting. But this is all because I feel really good that the hip problem, the tugging, the pulling, that pain that I had in my hip is gone. Since I started treatments back in September, after a free consultation with QC Kinetics. The days in July are hot, humid, or whatever has not affected me. I continue to run, and I ran a couple of miles earlier today. What QC Kinetics did for me, what it can do for you, if you're at your wit's end and you're like, I'm going to have surgery or procedure, get in touch with QC Kinetics with locations, 8 of them overall in Dallas and Houston, and let them sit you down, give you a free consultation of what they do for you. If you've had steroid shots, they haven't worked very long or at all. It kicks the can down the road. QC Kinetics takes your natural biologics, your plasma, your platelets, your stem cells, and they spin it and then put it back where your pain is, whether it's your hip or your shoulders or even maybe your knees or your elbows. Anything that's joint, anything that might be arthritis pain, they can fix it for you. They've done it for me, and I'd basically give it up after about 4.5 or 5 years of not being able to run. I do now almost every day, and thanks to QCkinetics.com.
It's in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Celebrate American value and American quality during the Red, White, and Blue sales event at Richard Car. You want a Richard Car GMC? Get your Sierra now and save $13,000 or more on every truck in stock with trade-in. Save $14,000 on a 2026 GMC Sierra SLE Crew Cab. Or save $13,500 on a 2026 GMC Sierra Pro, now under $29,000. Drive American quality and get American savings during the Red, White, and Blue sales event at Richard Car.
Richard Car, they have the truck for you.
Marco's only uses premium toppings, which means your pizza isn't just flavorful, it's mushroom-full, or sausage-full, or pepperoni-full. And you can get unlimited medium one-topping pizzas from the place named America's favorite pizza chain starting at $8.99 every day, only at Marco's.
This 4 o'clock hour is brought to you by Stonewood Dental, your one-stop shop for your dental needs, specializing in teeth cleaning, fillings, crowns, sealants, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, implants, bridges, dentures, full mouth restorations, and bioaesthetic dentistry. Our priority is your comfort from the moment you walk through the front door. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and David Craig.
We start this 4 o'clock hour. Chris Fanini, theathletic.com, joins us on 365 Sports. Chris, thank you very much for your time. It is that time of the year. The media days roll on. Of course, as you know, the SEC is going on right now in Tampa. I'm not sure how much you monitored what's going on there. I saw a couple of things in your timeline. Anything in particular that jumped out to you that you heard like, oh, you thought you'd hear, but you did hear it even more so?
Well, I think one of the trends of the first day has been a lot of complaining, and I don't want to be too upset about complaining because that's better than being boring. But whether it was Greg Sankey up there talking about SEC making its own rules, or whether it was Missouri coach Eli Drinkwitz complaining that certain Big Ten teams don't play a 10th conference, 10th Power 4 game relative to the SEC moving to 9 conference games. There's just a lot of kind of flailing from the league after it was kind of the top dog for so long. It's now gone 3 straight years without even playing for the national championship. It's still a very, very good league, probably the deepest top to bottom, but it continues an off season of complaining. Whether that's about the CFP and who's going to get in, whether it's about various strength of schedules with other people, whether it's saying that they're going to go make their own rules and not be very specific on what those rules mean. It's the league is still, I think, trying to find its identity now that the Big Ten has taken the national championships.
Chris, what are your thoughts on the positives and negatives of this 9th conference game we're going to be seeing with the SEC this year?
I mean, it's positive that every conference is now doing it. I mean, the Pac-10, Pac-12 back in the day, and the Big Ten have been doing it for a very long time. The ACC is also moving to 9 conference games, like halfway this year, fully next year. So, like, that's good. But I think it ultimately is going to take away some interesting non-conference games. We're already seeing it. Georgia and Florida State canceled the series. LSU and Arizona State appear to be doing that. Texas may or may not get out of the Notre Dame one coming up. And that's a result of going to 9 conference games. Like every team wants to have a couple wins on the schedule somewhere. And if you're in the SEC and you're Georgia, you got Georgia Tech, Florida, you got Florida State, South Carolina, you got Clemson. There's just not room to add more non-conference games. And I think that's bad for the sport because it makes it much more difficult to compare conferences. Like if everybody's playing so many games against themselves because the conferences are way too big, then we don't really know who's better, the SEC or the Big Ten, because they barely end up playing each other except at the end of the season. So I think I'd like to go back to smaller conferences, smaller conference schedules, more inter-conference matchups, but it's not the world we live in.
No, it's not, unfortunately, but right there with you, I think most people are. Another aspect of this is clearly Greg Sankey was kind of already lobbying for the fact that more teams are going to take extra losses now as a result of playing some of these games. We've seen them already campaign for 9-3 teams here in the last couple of years, and there's been mixed success as far as getting that argument across. But what do you think that looks like in practice at the end of this year? Do you think the committee is going to look at 3 losses from a Tennessee, the same as 1 loss from BYU? Like, how much of a problem do you see that potentially being?
Well, we haven't had a 3-loss team make the playoff yet. I think there's a good chance we get one for the first time this year because of that, because there are a bunch of these SEC teams are going to be taking on extra losses. And it's just the math. Like when you've added an extra game, half your teams have to take an extra loss. And this is why the SEC has been complaining all off season about the CFP and the committee and the metrics and all this kind of stuff, because they're worried they're going to be left out. Never mind the fact that they got 5 of the 7 at-large spots last year and didn't do very well and haven't done very well in the 12-team playoff era. They got most of the spots last year. We'll have to see how the rest of the schedule simply shakes out. But the SEC, once again, is trying to set the tone before the season. A year ago, at spring meetings, they passed out these pamphlets about strength of schedule. It eventually led to the CFP deciding, okay, we're going to add a strength of record metric. Now, none of us in the public got to see what that was, but safe to say it was pretty favorable to the SEC based on who got in the field. So, year to year, it's different. The committee weighs different things. It depends on who's on the bubble. I mean, Notre Dame was the one who got left out, not Alabama or Oklahoma last year. So I don't think you need to complain too much yet, but that's what the world is.
Yeah, I mean, when Alabama gets left out, Texas last year gets left out, that does help when it's like, well, they would never overlook one of those teams, but they do, or they have. Not overlook's not even the correct word. They didn't get in. They didn't have enough to get in, whether it's fair or not with that. Your thoughts, Ward Manuel, after a couple of weeks or so, the speculation today announced he will step down. However, he's going to be a special assistant and advisor to the president. So they wouldn't do that if there was a lot of dirt on him, would they, Chris?
Well, we don't know because they didn't make the report public, and they're not going to make it public because of just reasons. Forget transparency. Forget the litany of scandals that have gone on in various Michigan sports over the last 5+ years. We're just going to kind of brush it under the rug. We'll bring in a new AD eventually and move forward. It's probably going to work. Ward Manuel specifically, that doesn't mean much to me anyway, because 100 ADs are going to line up and want to take that AD job at Michigan, which is one of the best in the country, which is one of the richest athletic departments in the country and is very successful. They will be perfectly fine finding a new person to be in charge. Now that new person's got a new football coach, a new basketball coach, and you got to kind of deal with that. But Michigan's going to be perfectly fine. The real problem is not making any of this stuff public. Who knew what and when? Whether or not Ward Manuel knew enough about the Sharon Moore, situation that he had. There's a lot of other things that were going on and still going on, including Matt Weiss, who's being sued over graphic images he hacked off of computers and stuff like that. The Connor Stallions thing popped up back again. There's so many things going wrong at Michigan, but they think they can just kind of brush it under the rug and everybody will move on, and maybe they're right.
Yeah, the report without a report. That we've seen schools do that before. We've brought that up before, and some have just bared their souls. This is what we did and moved on. I want to get to the point of the breakaway discussion today from Sankey. Really, it's from his ADs and, of course, coaches or whatever about the possibility. But the NCAA is screwed up. We know that. If, in fact, they were to ever have, these are the teams and we're going to govern ourselves, Chris, who's going to keep those who are breaking the rules now from breaking the rules if they ever go to 40 teams or 48 teams or 24 teams?
Well, the question I've always had about the SEC making its own rules thing is, are they going to abide by their own rules?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the lawsuits that have taken apart NCAA rules have come from within the SEC. You had Diego Pavia do it. You had Joey Aguilar, the Tennessee quarterback, tried to do it. You had Charles Bediako, the basketball player at Alabama, do it. Trinidad Chambliss opened the door to a new way for people to get 5 years. So, are you going to stop those SEC players from suing over these rules? What rules are you going to make? Are you going to say you can't transfer within the SEC? Does that mean everybody in the SEC who transfers is going to go to the Big Ten? They're going to put themselves at a competitive disadvantage if they do a lot of these things. Are you going to try to set a lower cap of what you can spend Is that going to allow the Big Ten to spend more? Like, these are the questions you still don't really get a clear answer to. Everybody's just mad, and so they're just threatening to do things. And Greg Sankey can say this is not a ploy or a leverage play to try to convince the Senate to get on board with what they want, but it obviously is. And they're getting some of the things that they want changed, which is a normal part of the process. So the SEC breakaway thing, I don't even fully know what that means. Are they really going to only play themselves? I saw the president at, I think, Georgia said a couple weeks ago, like, what if we had an SEC only national championship? Imagine what the ratings would be. We had that with Alabama and Georgia. The ratings were not good. They were far lower than we got last year with Indiana and Miami. So, like, I don't really know what they're expecting here. And I'll say this, Charlie Baker, the president of the NCAA, the number one thing he has tried to do since he took over is to keep everything together, to keep the SEC and the Big Ten and the Power Four from breaking off. He has given them everything they've wanted. Power to make rule changes, other rule changes, basketball tournament expansion. He has bent over backwards to give the SEC as much as it wants so it does not break away. And yet here we are with the SEC still threatening to break away.
Yeah, I think that you make a lot of great points there, Chris. And I've just wondered on that particular topic of, well, if there's something that you could feasibly do, why not just do that right now? Like, are the lawmakers going to change if you go do it just by yourself versus with everybody right now? Like, you suddenly getting antitrust protection that you weren't going to get with this original group? Like, what's different?
The Power Four have autonomy power. They got 10 years ago. And they didn't do anything with it other than full cost of attendance, I think, was the only thing. So, like, they have the ability to try to do some more of this stuff. Specifics here and there, I'm not totally sure. If you're competing in NCAA sports, obviously you got to be under certain NCAA rules. But yeah, it continues to confuse me when I ask people about it. I continue to not get a straight answer.
So, Chris, there's plenty of off the field, as we know, covering college football. It's more year-round than it's ever been before. The SEC, though, no shortage of on-field storylines, whether it's Lane now at LSU or the Pete Golding era at Ole Miss, or it's Texas and Arch. Like, where does your brain go interest level-wise from the most, I guess, of the stories that are going on right now? Where does your interest go with the SEC at this moment?
Starts with LSU and Lane Kiffin. He's got to make the playoff, and he's got to compete for a national championship. He's got to do that in year one because they fired Brian Kelly because he was winning, but he wasn't winning enough. And the previous three coaches there all won a national championship. Lane Kiffin can say he wants patience and time and all this stuff. This is LSU. You're not going to get it. You just brought in one of the best portal classes in the country. You're paying a lot of money for Sam Leavitt at quarterback. LSU has to make the playoff, and they have to be competitive in that playoff. And if they don't, a year after he left Ole Miss, when he had Ole Miss there, it's going to be a problem. Because what I said when he left Ole Miss was, you have a team that realistically can compete for the national championship right now. There's no guarantee you get this far with LSU as far as you are with Ole Miss right now. Now, they've given them the money, they've given them the roster spending and all this kind of stuff that they need to. But it's a lot of pressure to win and to win right away. Similarly with Texas. This is the last year for Arch Manning. What is his legacy going to be in college football and at Texas? He has to make the playoff this year. Steve Sarkisian has to make the playoff this year. I know he made 2 semifinals in the 2 previous years. But again, to whom much is given, much is expected. You have the probable number 1 pick in the NFL draft next year. Is very up and down last season. You have to make him the number 1 pick this year. You have to compete for the national championship this year. And they got a lot of players out of the portal to do it at running back, at receiver. They have given Arch Manning everything he needs to succeed. And they also have a very, very tough schedule, including Ohio State early in the season. So those are 2 programs where it's like, you got to win big this year. And I'm very curious to see if they can do it.
Yeah, you make a great point because Arch needs to come out full throttle. Not that he wasn't ready to do that, but he just did not play well for a month and a half. They can't afford that because they've bet everything on him. In fact, forced Quinn Ewers to go to the NFL because of him, waiting in the wings. So that'll be interesting if I think they're going to be really, really good. But their schedule this year, their SEC schedule this year is much, much different than their first couple of years.
The schedule is very tough, but yeah, you can't keep saying, "Oh no, we meant next year," because next year is literally the last year you can do that. We're at that point now with Arch, which is crazy how time flies by. Chris, always good to talk to a fellow wrestling fan. Know you got a pod talking wrestling. Man, my interest ebbs and flows. It just kind of depends on what's going on. Feels like things have kind of simmered down compared to the last couple of years. Where's your enjoyment level right now in the build up to SummerSlam?
Yeah, it's up and down. WrestleMania was not great. I think you've seen the way you see it in a lot of sports. The corporatization is kind of taking over and creeping into the on-field product, so to speak, as you see. I'm excited for SummerSlam, though. I think it'll be a good show. The roster is incredibly talented. Who knows if we're going to get this Tom Brady, Logan Paul thing that they've been starting to hint at. I think it looks terrible. I think Tom Brady needs to get his life to just figure out what he wants to do with his life, because he's kind of doing a bunch of stuff and it's a little bit awkward. But clearly they're leaning into potentially doing that as well. So a lot's going on in wrestling, good and bad. I think the young talent that they've brought up, guys who used to play college sports. Obafemi was an All-American shot put thrower at Alabama. He's going to be like their new big star. He's probably going to beat Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. And so it's interesting seeing WWE's kind of college sports pipeline that they've created starting to kind of come into fruition at the top of the roster.
And that's how you bring it all back full circle to Obafemi. Yeah. And I've enjoyed the writing you've done on him and his background. And like Trick Williams has got a background as well, college sports.
Played at South. He played at wide receiver at South Carolina. Wrote a story about him around Mania.
Yeah. I think you guys should go co-host your own wrestling podcast.
He's got his podcast.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. We could chat it up sometime, sure, yeah.
Chris, what did you think of the World Cup? How much did you watch? How much did you pay attention? And is it like all of a sudden it's over? So, United States, we get excited. It was on our home turf. Great players, stars. But we'll wait 4 more years to watch it, most likely. Your thoughts about overall the World Cup?
I thought it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen and experienced. I watched pretty much every game. I was lucky enough to cover 5 of the games here in Dallas, including the Spain-France semifinal. But it was just great to get out and see all these people discovering America and experiencing it for the first time. I spent time with Japanese fans and Norwegian fans and Dutch fans, and all these just people experiencing this country was incredibly heartwarming, honestly, to just, it made you appreciate a lot of parts of this country that I think we take for granted. Then the games themselves were incredible. The final game was kind of boring, but for the most part, the tournament was like the most goals they'd ever had in like 60 years or something like that in the tournament. It was a lot of fun. All the star players played very well. So I thought it was great, an unbelievably fun month. I'm currently trying to shift my brain back into college football because I've just been in World Cup for the last month. And I think most of America will probably wait 4 years from now. We're a country, we kind of go from big event to big event. I remember before the World Cup, everybody was saying, where's the buzz? Where's the excitement? Where is it? And then as soon as the NBA Finals ended, then it was the World Cup's turn and everybody was there. So we kind of always move. We're done with the World Cup now. We're heading into football season. We're just going on that cycle again. And I imagine there's a lot of new soccer fans, and I encourage them to find teams to root for, whether it's in MLS here or the Premier League over in England. But because I do that, and I got into soccer because of the 2010 World Cup. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time, Chris. Chris Fanini, theathletic.com, great writer and also a great guest to have on this show. On the World Cup, United States sports fans like stars. Some like teams, but I think stars. And I think with the stars that were in the World Cup having very good runs, not every one of them, but being stars, I think that probably drew some people too.
Yeah, and I guess Balogun was Team USA's big star there for a brief moment. Certainly wasn't Pulisic as advertised, and I think those conversations have been going on now about that he's not necessarily the Captain America that's going to lead this team to the promised land. But there's a lot of star power that we just watched over the last couple of months or whatever, how long it's been. It feels like it's been 3 months. I know it's been shorter than that, but it's bittersweet to see it go because it was a lot of fun and was glued to the game, the ending of the game on Saturday, which turned out to be just utterly insane, going from blowout to all of a sudden this miraculous comeback in the making to one of the highest scoring games you'll ever see in a World Cup.
It turned
that
into
was
an NBA All-Star game.
Yeah, it was a crazy finish for the third place game. But that was fun. And then yesterday, I know that the style of that game being low scoring, not a lot of shots on goal for Argentina, not really the best game for your casual fan to stumble in and be like, this is the greatest thing ever. But that's how soccer goes. So you're not looking to just have casual fans because every game's 6-5 or something like that. So yeah, that was a different style of game. And kudos to everybody involved for making this such a successful event. Kudos to Spain for winning the whole damn thing. There by the end, I was rooting for Spain. I wanted to see the Messi storyline, but at the same time, it's not as though he hasn't won one. So I didn't feel like, if he doesn't win this one, he's not going to ever win it. I do like him. The rest of his team a little bit harder to root for. The rest of his team a little bit more difficult to try and cheer on. But he's amazing. And if that was the end, then he was there at the very end and almost looked like he was going to pull off. You were waiting for him to. You were waiting for Messi to pull off some miracle.
If they got into a penalty kicks, then Argentina would have had an advantage just based on history. But no,
they got close.
Yeah, let's come back and kind of look at that. The World Cup. We did it every day. It's done. We'll get to that. Also, Joey Maguire and his thoughts about Will Hammond's health that he mentioned yesterday at the High School Coaches Association convention in Houston. And a couple of other nuggets as well. We have a lot of super chats, and we do appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and, Rez, can we put the last one up yet, or is that something you've been able to grab? Let's come back with that. We'll come back with the one from Julius Maximus. There we are. Howdy, David and Craig. The only smoke break I take is with Craig. I work a factory job and turn you all on to finish my day. Keep up the great work. Hope your time in Utah is great. That's where I'm going to go on a golf trip. And Julius Maximus, thank you for a really nice super chat, but also for the contribution to the show too.
Yeah, Julius, thank you so very much. That's a nice chunk of change. So appreciate you working hard and giving us a little bit of what you work so hard for. Really appreciate that. Know what that means. So yeah, and the compliment there about the smoke break. I need to get back into my routine, but there's plenty coming as far as that goes. So appreciate you listening in to this show or to that extra podcast, and means a great deal. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, and that's on 365 Sports. Go to YouTube and dial up 365 Sports, and it's got everything from our show, what we do, and also Craig Smoke Breaks and some of the shorts that we do that Andrew and Logan do with this show. So we appreciate that. All right, when we come back, let's catch up on some other sports headlines, including Joey Maguire and his thoughts. And I even texted him when I saw the quote to confirm it about Will Hammond and more. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Right now, it's make it the summer event for them and for you. If you're looking for an SUV or you're looking for a truck, they have what you need. Pre-owned cars, a large chunk of those available for you too. I bought one now 6 years ago at this particular time. Alan Samuels with pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs in stock. Here's one of what they have available that's a pre-owned car. 2021 Kia Sorento with only 80,000 miles or just $17,000 is how much that will cost. 2024 Nissan Sentra with 60,000 miles, only $17,800, both with fantastic payments available for you because that price is really, really good. That's what happened to me in 2020. I was going to get maybe a brand new SUV or a possibility of something from, I'm not a pickup truck guy. I think they're awesome because they're just like having a luxury vehicle. They're just bigger. I can't trust myself with something that large. But I was looking around and all of a sudden I saw that Ford Explorer. They don't carry Ford, but they do have pre-owned cars with different brands, including the one I bought, and the price was crazy good, and I took advantage of it. A 2022 Ram 1500 limited 4x4 eco diesel, rated 21 miles per gallon, 29 on the highway, reduced to just $37,000. Make it the summer event. At Allen Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Ted Teague, CEO and General Manager. David Gray runs the entire sales department of really good guys and, well, men and women that will help you find the vehicle you're looking for as you hit the summer at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide. Affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years. And let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
At Tarleton State University, we believe your education should fit your journey. Whether you're starting college or advancing your career, Tarleton State opens the door to what's next. A student-focused education is never far away. Don't change your life to earn a degree. Earn a degree to change your life. Because wherever life takes you, Tarleton State goes with you. Become a Texan today. Visit tarleton.edu.
From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio, now it's time for the Smoke Show. Presented by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans, and we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
You know, today we continue with some of the headlines we have not gotten to yet. I'm waiting to hear whether Trey Wallace of Outkick and Fox will be available. He was sitting down with Josh Heupel, head coach at Tennessee, and he's at SEC Media Days in Tampa. You going to say something?
No, I hope Trey's feeling better than
he is.
He was.
He had the creeping crud last week, early to midweek, and he really just recovered in time to get himself to Tampa.
And outside of that, knowing that he was pretty sick, I mean, if we get him, great. If not, I think that's fine too, whether today or some other day. But it's fun to see these media days kicking off. You know, ACC had some interesting things a week ago, and now we're here in the full swing. It's damn near August, fellas. It's getting right down.
Would you please slow that down?
No. Actually, at this point, I'm kind of like I'm ready to see some football. Like I want to see Arch in Texas. I want to see Lane in LSU.
But
I want to see.
It's the 5 weeks prior to that.
I want to see BYU and circling back to Julius's very gracious super chat there. I love that he picked up on the play on words of the Smoke Break Pod. I was originally told that would not be a good name, but I kind of was like, no, I want this to be the name.
Why would Smoke Break not be a good name?
Because it invokes thoughts of people smoking, which is taboo now. So
something that you don't and haven't for a long time.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with whether I do or not, but just in general that like smoking's a taboo thing. So it's a play on that.
Okay.
Like, oh, smoke break will make people think of like smelly cigarette smoke. And I'm like, no, I think they'll just know it's my name and it's a play on the fact that it's a quick deal. So I'm glad we stuck with that. And I'm glad that Julius had some fun with it there. And again, just really appreciate your super chat. But yeah, it's SEC Media Day is already creating a lot of headlines just on day one. We still got 3 days to go here.
So also down in Houston, and this is not for a lot of you that watch what we do, but it's a big deal because what's happening in college football is infiltrating in high school football around the country, whether it's Florida or California, which is agents and NIL and much more. But they had the start of the Texas High School Coaches Association. There's like 15,000 in attendance. Joey McGuire, when he was on the college football panel, said that if any of you Red Raiders are out there, Will Hammond will be ready to go week 1. So then I text Joey later yesterday afternoon. I'm not saying he would say something without meaning it because that's a heavy deal. And I said, oh, so he goes, yes, he will be ready for week 1, which is not a surprise, but that's a couple of weeks before most people thought that he might be ready. And so great news as well for Will Hammond, if true that he continues to maintain what is obviously a tremendous health.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously what they now believe to be true, but yeah, certainly anything I guess could happen in the next 6 weeks, 7 weeks or so. I was curious about what this headline from Joey McGuire, this update was going to be, because I do feel like we've heard him as recently as Big 12 Media Days talk about Will Hammond being on track, on schedule, if not ahead of it. So good to hear there's a real update that's more substantial than just what he's already said. And the fact that he could be ready to play against ACU and then head on to Corvallis. I never thought that they were in much danger, all due respect to Oregon State. And I know ACU gave them a scare once upon a time, not that long ago at all. But still, I think you felt really good about just the team in total, that they could navigate with whoever was back there. But certainly if it can be Will Hammond, then that's that much better, that he gets those reps, that you just kind of start with your guy, with your QB1 there at the helm, rather than waiting on him to be ready by week 3 for Houston or whenever it might be. So that's a great update for the Red Raiders out there. And I'm sure they were not totally surprised because it's kind of been tracking this way, but certainly to hear Joey McGuire basically confirm that, then that's a great piece of news.
All right. And then also the college football panel, there's a lot of coaches that were on there. Yes.
I'm sorry, but I got to add, they have created a tremendous amount of pressure on not Joey McGuire, but like the expectations for Will Hammond now, the way we know he's coming off of injury, but how much he's been talked about. Like he is a really good player. I'm going to be really interested to see at full health what he can do being the man, because
I wonder about, can he be the same quarterback if he's not really, if
mobile?
They want to protect, if they want, I think he'll be mobile, but are they going to ask him to be careful, which you do sometimes, but I think that's when you get hurt again.
Right. Yeah.
If you don't just play and let it go.
And I don't think he's going to have to rush for 100 yards against Oregon State or against Abilene Christian in week 1. But yeah, I mean, they've talked him up now for going on a couple years, really ever since he signed as a pretty nice recruit, and obviously had a lot of success at the high school level. But yeah, I mean, they've said time and again, like, no, we wouldn't have gotten Brendan Sorsby if Will Hammond was healthy, and this was always our guy, and this was we have full trust in him. So just really eager to see him out there and to be the man, but there's going to be big expectations, obviously.
I had written down that question for Joey for media days, unless we would have had him on, leading up to it, about the Sorsby recruitment, had Hammond been healthy. And he answered that quickly. No, we would not. We would have used that money on something else or other positions. So here he is. Apparently he is on track, not only on track, that he's cleared based on what Joey McGuire said yesterday. Speaking of yesterday in Houston, How about this? This is Steve Sarkisian having some fun, vice versa, with Joey McGuire.
First and foremost, Joey and I are good. We're sitting next to each other, y'all, so we're all good up here, okay? So,
all right, that's yesterday for those. Oh, my God, they hate each other. They're competing against each other for a lot of things, but sometimes we part of the business, they disagreed on some stuff, and here we are with that. Also, here's a picture of the college football panel, which is including A&M's Mike Elko, who's done a really quiet, successful, although they need to get better, even more so deeper. Those three, Sark and Joey and Elko, up on the podium yesterday afternoon.
Is that the SEC in 2028? No, I'm just kidding, because I was going to get realignment riled up. No, I'm playing, obviously, but yeah, that's the three biggest head coaches in the state of Texas right now. I don't think there's any question about that, and I don't think Mike Elko's been quiet. I think he's not as much of a lightning rod as Jimbo Fisher is or
compare
was.
him to those guys up on the panel.
Well, I was going to get to that, and compared to Jimbo Fisher and Kevin Sumlin and all the messy headlines, he's quiet compared to that. Compared to Joey McGuire's offseason and Sark's constant headlines this offseason, I mean, they might be the two most outside of Lane Kiffin headline guys in the sport this past 6 months or so. So, yeah, compared to those guys, compared to his predecessors, he's quiet.
That's who's on the podium, man. I think Elko has been perfect where A&M needed someone who's getting the job done, but it wasn't a lot of look at me.
Yeah, my point is that it wasn't quiet, though. Like, I know what you're saying with that compared to those headlines, but yeah, it's not like they're just kind of over. No, they've said plenty. They've shown plenty. He's been vocal on a variety of different things. So yeah, he's just not as out there as the other guys, but by no means do I think it's been quiet what they've done. I think everybody's just kind of like, is this the same A&M, or is this going to be an even greater thing? And that's what I think is going to be really fascinating this year. They're kind of getting lost to some degree, I feel like, in the headlines because of a Texas Tech. But man, coming off of that year in 2025 and the stand to bring a lot of those guys back, I mean, yeah, they're a fascinating team, and I actually think that maybe being a little bit overshadowed is a good thing. Not have those expectations.
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. They're acquiring talent, getting commits, signing players, lots of talent, et cetera.
He's a great coach
in a way that he's not going to be a look at me. He's not going to be up on a bandstand. He's just going about it methodically. And I like his style. Meanwhile, Texas and the offensive line, Cole Houston, who had his last year of eligibility at UT, the offensive lineman, went to an NFL, was not drafted, went to an NFL camp, didn't go well, and it appears as if he now is looking for an extra year of eligibility. Nick Harris of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, who covers the NFL, covers the Cowboys, he goes, think about a player that participated in an NFL rookie minicamp being allowed back for another year would be something. No different than what we saw in men's basketball with Bediako and Najee. And so I don't know what's going to happen here, but he might be a part of their team in 26.
It's Cole Hudson, not Houston.
Did I say Houston? Okay, yeah.
But yeah, this is a football version of the Bediako stuff. So we'll see where it goes in the courtroom.
Here is Steve Sarkisian when asked about Hudson and his possibility of being a part of the team in 2026.
With Cole's situation, obviously we're monitoring it, and I don't know where it's going to go. You know, I think we've all seen over the past few years there's been a lot of lawsuits that have been filed and piggybacking off of other lawsuits, so on and so forth. And you know, Cole's a guy with a lot of experience, played a lot of football for us, and you know, he's a guy that unfortunately didn't get drafted, and so he puts himself in a bit of a different situation than maybe most guys that got done playing, you know, their fourth year in college. So we'll see what that looks like and see where it goes.
There you are, Steve Sarkisian on the possibility Hudson goes back. Now, I thought it was interesting too that, you know, the offensive line for UT last year wasn't very good. Now, they did have a high draft pick, and they were good, but they struggled protecting Arch Manning. And I remember seeing a lot of good riddance and bringing in new guys and also the next guys who were next up. And then all of a sudden, well, this, no matter what you thought of how he played or not, it's depth, it's another player, it's another body, and a guy that played a lot of snaps for UT that could be available to help along the way on the offensive line.
Yeah, I suppose it can't hurt. I won't pretend to know how valuable he would be to their current configuration. I'm more or less stuck on the idea of now, opening the door to guys in NFL training camps. And what's the argument against it? If you've allowed Charles Bediako to come back, and you've allowed James Najee to come back, and you've allowed some of these other examples, now college basketball is basically turning into the Euro League at the rate we're going right now. It's just going to be all the European youngins that would have otherwise been playing over there for Real Madrid. They're not just going to come over and play for Kentucky. And I think it's going to suck for college basketball if we continue at the rate it appears that it's going. And maybe I'm making too much of it, but it does feel like everybody sees the doors now open. They're like, well, we didn't open it. It's there to walk through. So we're going to walk through it. Like you see some of the Will Wade recruiting, obviously Illinois last year with their roster. That's fun to some extent, but I just don't want to see college basketball turn into a mix of Euro League and NBA D League runoff like that. That's just what kind of worries me. But for college football, I don't know what the big difference would be. I think it sucks, though, and I absolutely positively do not want to see anybody who's played even a sniff of the NFL as a practice player, much less a game player. So I'll be interested to see how the courts rule on that. That's what I thought. I thought immediately about men's basketball with G League players coming back and being eligible to play. He was at an. Well, how can you say they can do that because they didn't technically sign? Like, what did he sign? I guess we would need to know that.
There had to have been something to go to any kind of mini camp or any kind of rookie camp, but he didn't sign a contract to be a part of the team, but to be a part of that camp. But it's so interesting because you go to an NFL camp. Unfortunately for him, it didn't work out. And then all of a sudden you look at the option because everybody has an option to find one more year to do something in college athletics.
And this is also a result of the 5-for-5. So technically he would be somebody who would have another year to play. And that's what you're going to run into with, I think, to the point of some of the SEC coaches. And I think it might've been Pat Smith, what he said earlier of the execution of some of these things like, hey, we do want to see 5-for-5. But we don't want to see you throw that into our laps in July and then have guys, or in June, and then have guys now trying to sue to get the fifth year this upcoming season. There had to have been a better way to do that. And I think that's an example of like where some of the frustration is with how things are executed and decided on. But yeah, I mean, the injunction is going to play off of the 5-for-5 idea that you've technically got an extra year because you never redshirted. So we'll see how the court rules on that. And it'll be similar to all these eligibility suits we saw over the offseason. Trinidad Chambliss, really Pavia obviously set that off a couple of years ago, but the rash of them with Chambliss and Heineke and Morris and so on and so forth.
And this one here is the 5-for-5, right? This is the one. This is not he had a year at Angelo State or something like that. He was a good player, but now
he was a Texas guy the whole time.
Yeah.
He never redshirted.
That's
so
what
he should technically have a 5-for-5.
Yeah, and so this is one that there's guys trying to get underneath that 5-for-5, and he might be able to do so. I wouldn't bet against it. I mean, maybe that's not the choice of words, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's cleared to play one more year. So we asked Chris Fanini near the end about the World Cup. Spain beat Argentina. I just got to tell you, the last 4 or 5 weeks, however long it went, I thought it was spectacular. Lamine Yamal, he beat along the way, along with Spain, Cristiano Ronaldo, Mbappe, Dembele, and also Lionel Messi in the championship on Sunday. Back to back. Those star players that Spain beat. And here's a note about Spain soccer. And they're not going to be like a show that scores a lot. They just won the world championship, the FIFA World Cup. But here's a note about them that is hard to imagine. Spain did not allow what was technically a single shot on goal for the 90 minutes of regulation time. Not one. I was watching it and I was like, wait a minute, it's like 19 to nothing when it comes to shots on goal, which has also got to be frustrating for Spain. That's never been done in a World Cup final. They allowed one goal through all of their wins throughout the entire tournament, including the championship win against Argentina. That is 0.3 goals expected against per game. 0.3 goals they allowed, and best by any champion that has won in the last 60 years. Now, we mentioned the star of Spain. Here's yet another note about it. I don't go to the image yet of something I sent to you, Rez. Craig, did you watch the final?
Yeah.
The whole thing?
Yeah.
So I didn't watch the whole thing. I took a nap right before it started at 2 o'clock thinking, well, Spain's not going to give up any goals, so if it's any kind of score, it'll be Spain 1-0 or whatever. I wake up at halftime. I forgot about that. I saw some stuff about the halftime performance with all the various people that were a part of it. And then I saw the note about Shakira. And I'm like, I'm going to go back and see her part of the performance because I think she's spectacular. I think she's a great entertainer. I just think she's fun. Looks like she's always happy. But when I did that, I rewound the coverage and then started watching just her performance for 3 or 4 minutes and then sat there and started watching the World Cup later and realized I was 45 minutes behind live time.
How many times did you watch her performance?
Oh, I watched it at least maybe 40 times.
15 times?
No, I watched it and then I just let it, then it just continued. And then I started doing some work where I'm at my desk. And then I realized, holy crap, I was like 45 minutes behind, forwarded just before Spain scored. But that's me. That's YouTube TV and ability to, but she's unbelievable and Spain's unbelievable. And she has now performed at halftime a couple of times at the World Cup, and Spain has won both times that she performed.
Yeah, she's a great talent, has been. I mean, she's damn near 50 at this point. She's been around a really long time. So, yeah, I've enjoyed her over the 20, 30-year career she's had now at this point. And she was a little ray of sunshine like she typically is, with a lot of energy during what was otherwise a pretty forgettable halftime. We Americans, or maybe our TV networks, just can't help themselves and just have to have a big halftime show. So we've already bucked various other FIFA rules that are actually in their rule books at this point. Why not do another one? Why not go over the halftime time limit, which I know is a nothing burger for American fans who are just casually viewing, but for the fanatical soccer fan, those who believe everybody should play by the rules, and the rules are the rules, and those types of folks who like the tradition. Yeah, this is just bucking that, just to throw a bunch of pop stars out there. So halftime ended up being twice as long as it normally is supposed to be. And I felt that was really kind of unnecessary, but a totally unsurprising move by Fox to want to Americanize this thing up. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just that we love our halftime shows. We love making everything like this ordeal or this bigger thing. And so, yeah, I could have totally done without the entire halftime show for what it was worth. I thought, like, Madonna didn't need to see her or her song that's 23 years old. That's a good song. It was very popular, but I heard it in 2004 when it first dropped or whenever that was, and I didn't need to see her performing it live in 2026. Justin Bieber decided to go I'm going to show off my vocal range route and kind of bring the whole crowd down to some like softer vocals and emotional singing when the whole thing was like rah rah, and then next thing you know, like we're watching Bieber like expose his heart to the world basically, and then here comes BTS and Shakira to try to liven it back up, whatever the order was. But yeah, BTS is immensely popular, but they stick them on everything known to man. So yeah, not surprised that was the crew of people they came up with. Touched a little of every, I guess, fandom to the best degree they could. And it was all totally unnecessary. But if you enjoyed it, then great. It didn't harm the game or change the outcome. But I can understand there's been multiple things, as good as this tournament has been, that if you are somebody who wants FIFA to follow their own rules, they have time and again this tournament said, well, we'll just change that right now. Oh, we'll just change that. We'll just change that, and doing it on the fly. And so for the traditionalists, yeah, that's not something that they loved, but it was probably good for the casual viewer.
I don't think, no doubt about it. First of all, I like her music, but and she's a beautiful woman. But I don't rewind anything to go back and watch anything else as far as halftime. But I did, and I'm glad that I did. Now, one other note internationally: the Open Championship went to Ryan Fox, who birdied the final hole to win the British Open. Here's a note about Ryan Fox. How about this? First time he ever played golf, he was 13. Did not play in a competitive tournament until he was 18. Didn't win his first big amateur event until he was 24, and didn't turn pro until the year after 25. And now an unknown, not if you watch golf, and not if you don't watch the DP Tour, the European Tour. This guy's a grinder, and there's obvious evidence right there. And he won, beating a field that had all the big names in the tournament. So congratulations to Ryan Fox.
Yeah, I didn't watch. I'm not much of a golf fan, as I've said on here. Enjoy moments of it, but I'm definitely not locked into it outside of just kind of keeping up to date through headlines and whatnot. So didn't catch much of this other than just sort of the celebration for an unlikely winner. I did enjoy the World Cup as a whole, though. I mean, talk a little bit more about the ratings tomorrow. I love the event as a whole. I didn't mind the final, although more scoring would have been a lot of fun. I don't care about the Super Bowl halftime show, much less the World Cup ripoff version of the Super Bowl halftime show. So that's just where I'm coming from with that. But yeah, pretty good sports weekend considering it was very light. Like, was back home with family, and we usually have something to watch sports wise, and there was little to nothing unless you like wanted to watch the Rangers or World Cup. And once World Cup was over, there was like nothing on Saturday night to watch. So it was kind of a light weekend, but still a lot ended up happening, and there was a lot to enjoy and watch. And I guess my biggest takeaway from the golf tournament was just the Bryson stuff. And I don't know where you sit on that.
I want to get into that. So there was that on Friday. You weren't here, but I'm hosting the show, and then Paxton starts to not blow up by text, but starts to tell me about a DeChambeau might be getting a 2-stroke penalty because of improving his lie, and either you think he did or he didn't. The only thing that I will say about Bryson DeChambeau, who's a brilliant golfer, is it was a little bit weird in the game of golf. Not that you don't have a hothead like a John Rahm or some others. It's when he was so like demonstrative to the officials at the site in which he did what they said he did and got a 2-stroke penalty. That was a little bit much. And Rory McIlroy, who I like as a golfer, needs to shut the hell up. Just shut up. I get that you've kind of carried the tour with the live breakaway and your opinion and whatever else, but it's not as if you haven't had your little outburst as well. You know you don't like him, so maybe it's good you say what you say, but I just think Rory needed to just keep his mouth shut in that particular moment.
Yeah, I mean, I just told you I don't watch religiously, but I do keep up and I'm aware of most of what's going on. And so I've seen plenty of Rory over the years. And I don't know who died and made him the boss of all of the golfers in the PGA or golfers in the world for that matter. I think he got a little high on his own supply as far as kind of being the spokesperson for the PGA unofficially in their battle with Liv and kind of being the defender and that guy, and didn't realize of like, okay, that's one thing, but that doesn't mean you need to speak on everything. And that doesn't mean that your opinion on everything is right. So yeah, I don't think that was unnecessary on his part to call out Bryson. I also think Bryson DeChambeau, I understand how incredibly popular he is and his YouTube channel and all those things. He's got quite a fandom behind him. But I think the whole, no matter how well-liked you are or how cool you may be or whatever, I don't think it's ever a cool look when you basically say, I'm going to take my ball and go home. Like if you rule against me, I'm going to take Sankey.
Yeah, that's exactly like Notre Dame in the bowl game.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I just don't ever agree with that sort of well, give me what I want or I'm leaving type of attitude, which is exactly what his response was there for a moment. Now, obviously he came back to play. He didn't boycott the rest of the tournament, but I did feel like that was kind of whiny baby stuff to say, well, if you try to penalize me, I'm gonna leave the rest of the tournament like that.
Yeah.
Come on, dude.
I don't know. Here's the thing: he didn't really ever talk, but his agent made that comment.
Said that,
and when he made that comment, whether you agreed with DeChambeau or not, and even some of you who text me, you were like, "He may not play tomorrow." Okay, bye. It's not.
It's live, buddy.
Bye, man. Don't be a baby. I get you're mad at the ruling. You might never agree with the ruling. Down deep inside, you know what you did or not. That's fine. But then whoever was the one that decided, well, he may not play tomorrow. He's going to, so what? The tournament goes on without you.
Yeah, and then there was all sorts of headlines about him threatening to, and I don't know how valid they were, but I saw the headline from multiple places that are not like, some fake international website propped up to be like some American sports company type of fictitious, thing, but Golf World and Forbes and those types of websites were talking about how, he was going to call the president if he didn't get his way. And we start turning into that. Like, yeah, his agent probably shouldn't have said that because it opened a can of worms. And luckily he came back to play. So if that was never in his thought process, hopefully he's talked to his agent and said, like, dude, don't ever put that out there again because it does make me look bad. And that wasn't my intention. If it wasn't his intention, then my original message is the same of, dude, you're a great golfer and immensely popular and successful, but don't do the whole give me what I want or I'm going home thing. Like, again, this isn't live golf. They've already lived without you for 5 years. Yep. They can do it again. And this wasn't to that serious extent by all means, but that's just not going to fly.
Yeah. And the scenario should come down in the ruling itself. And most of the time in golf, you're going to have a few things. I hate it when somebody sees something on TV and they call whoever they call, hey, by the way, the ball moved. Most of the time in golf, you have to be the one with the integrity to play the game that you monitor yourself. And I think 99% of the golfers do that. And in that case, they should have let Bryson make the decision, but they didn't. They made the ruling. And that created the drama throughout the day on Friday.
And it says a lot that Scheffler and others stood up for him and said that he's not a cheater. Now, he may have in that moment. I can't say. I'm not him, but that had to feel pretty good to have the GOAT of present day, Scotty Scheffler, come out and say he's not a cheater.
Scheffler also waited until after the tournament before he made any comments, which is also, I like the way he handled that too himself.
For what was a pretty tame sports weekend, it actually ended up with some pretty juicy things from the end of the World Cup to baseball ongoing to you got, I guess, NBA summer stuff going on.
I haven't watched. I don't even know if I'll watch, but I know it's there. But
that's out there as well.
That's why the ESPYs are on Wednesday night, because it's one of the weakest weeks of sports that you could possibly have.
It is, yeah, and that was evident in the pockets of time where thankfully I had my little niece there to keep me entertained, because we all are usually watching sports together, and there's no better time than here in a couple of months when all weekend long there's football games on. But this was one of those weekends where it was the World Cup game on Saturday, the World Cup game on Sunday, a little bit of golf, and I guess a few other things here and there, but it was not it was a slower weekend than we've become used to. We've had the craziest, most wild ass 2026 sports schedule with all these international events colliding with the regular seasons that we had to take a break at some point. It's almost probably perfect that we've gone nonstop since the Olympics, or no, really since the NFL playoffs, into the Super Bowl, into the Olympics, into World Baseball Classic, like so on and so on, into World Cup. And so now we get a little bit of a breather, even though there's still stuff going on, and then football season, and we don't look back.
A lot of it had international flavor because of what you mentioned. Yeah, with the Baseball Classic and the Olympics, and then, of course, the World Cup, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Here is one from Wet Blanket. Rory talks too much about the live golfers. He should just just STFU. I do. There's no question.
Yeah.
He's got. He's upset with them. Okay, you've made your point many times. It's been 2 or 3 years. Everyone knows. The Bryson thing, just talk about that moment. You don't have to get into whether you like him or not.
Yeah, I think that's probably where some people's minds went to is he's got a bit of a bone to pick in general. So he's going after a guy when he has a chance to, based on stuff that's happened previously, not so much what just happened that day. So, yeah, I think he should be more mindful of that. It's not really a good look. And there's better ways to go about trying to police the game. And you are not the commissioner of golf, Rory, as much as it maybe feels like you have been at times the last few years with this whole live deal. It's a different world now, but Bryson's also got to know that as well. I know he could quit the PGA today and just go YouTube and make millions and never look back.
Well, he did quit the PGA. Yeah, he basically did. Yeah.
But he can just go live off YouTube money, I'm sure, and be totally fine. But just don't have your agent come out and say if he doesn't get what he wants, he's going to leave. I think that's also a bad look.
Trey Wallace also not only got Josh Heupel, but apparently was able to get one-on-one with Sankey. So we'll have him on either tomorrow or Wednesday. Just sent me a text. Rez, let's look at the 2027 major championships as we got a couple more things, and then we wrap it up with the wheel coming up in a minute. A look ahead to the 2027 majors for any of you who do watch golf, who know the history of golf. It's the tweet from the Golf Channel, Rez. Here is a look of the 4 tournaments of next year, the same 4 majors. Starting with, there's the Masters, and then there's the PGA Championship, U.S. Open, and the Open Championship. If you look at that list, there's one tournament that does not belong on that list based on tradition and history. With all due respect, but it's in the state of Texas. It's been forever since they hosted a major championship. It's Frisco Fields, which is just north of Dallas, in a city that has exploded. That's where they're hosting the PGA in the 2027. Whoa. In the same year that you have Augusta National, which every year hosts the Masters, Pebble Beach, one of the great courses ever, and St. Andrews, one of the greatest courses in history and tradition ever. That's the lineup. And PGA Frisco Fields Ranch East will be a part of that rotation next year. So there we are with that. Craig, anything else to wrap up the weekend?
No, yeah. I mean, I guess that's one of those things. Is not like the other, although I'm sure it's a really nice course. It'd be like having the Rose Bowl and whatever other great venues you'd want to throw in there, traditional great venues, Orange Bowl, Superdome, what have you, and then having some random ass like Northwestern's new stadium hosting the 4th leg of that. I guess is that kind of what you're comparing it to?
Yep.
But that's cool. I mean, that they're going to hit 3 pretty legendary spots over those 4 tournaments. And then, obviously a new shinier object in a place we just were, not the course, but in Frisco, Texas, where everything's brand new and shiny. It feels like it's also new out there. But, great opportunity for Frisco. And then if you're one of those fans, I guess, that probably tours around following along the tournament, I'm sure there's a fan here or there that does something along those lines. And you got pretty good eating this year as far as the majors go. You're going to see some pretty cool stuff. A lot of history to take in with the tournaments this year.
I have one more video. It's a short video. G.J. Kinney, the head coach at Texas State, at that coaches association yesterday, he was asked about how much does he follow and pay attention to anybody that his team program, Texas State, is recruiting, because I don't know about how many other coaches do this themselves as the head coach rather than maybe those who are analysts and interns and much more. Here's G.J. Kinney.
I don't know about the NIL era, but I think just recruiting in general, the first thing, when coaches send me huddles and they send me, all the different things, first thing I do is go to their Twitter or their Instagram. Go to their Twitter, their Instagram, see what they're posting, see what they're reposting, trying to get as much information as I can possible before I even watch the film. sometimes you watch the film first and then you're like, okay, I like him, then you go there. It does happen that way sometimes, depending on the setting. But if I'm at home and someone sends me somebody, I'm going to their Twitter, I'm checking them out, seeing their track times, kind of see what other sports they play, if they're dunking a basketball on their social media, what other information that I can get. If they're getting some kind of award, if they're doing community service, I'm checking all of that out. Coach Burns, our special teams coach, always gives me a hard time. He's like, hey, if you ever decide not to coach football, you can go work in the FBI or something. Like I'm gaining every information. Your profile's on private, I'm finding a way to get in that thing. So it's a huge part of it, and obviously you're building your brand. So I guess the NIL part, is probably what you really want to know. I guess just building your brand, how you portray yourself is important.
Yeah, I've always wondered about that, and I've heard that some coaches, maybe even staff, you have GMs now, and then of course everything down the line, personnel directors, et cetera, that how much do they follow somebody's Twitter feed? And GJ admitting he looks at all of it. He looks at every bit, from track times to everything else. So there was the Texas State coach saying how much they do monitor. I can see somebody monitoring a player that you're going to recruit or you are recruiting, but I didn't know how many of the head coaches did that too.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd be an absolute moron to not be doing something like that in this day and age. If social media is out there, whether it's the head coach or just somebody needs to be doing it. So maybe he's a little bit more hands-on than others that delegate that to somebody. But yeah, I don't think there's anything that's not common sense as far as what he's talking about. I mean, if a guy's going to be showing off and bragging about his interests, or you can kind of get a little insight into their personality for better and worse, then that's what you should be doing, so you avoid situations later on that could severely hurt you as a coach or as a program. Yeah, we've spent an entire offseason talking about background checks because of a gambling situation, but it has always made sense to have background checks in general. And we know a lot of times that guy might be a little bit of a troublemaker, but his talent overrides that because it's not real bad trouble. And then there's times where you have somebody who could be real trouble and you take the risk anyway, and then it blows up in your face and maybe blows up your program. Or it just gives you a bad mark there for a little while because you brought in somebody who was not of good character, and they tarnish your reputation a little bit. So yeah, with millions of dollars on the line and dozens and dozens of jobs and as big as staffs are nowadays, if you're not doing what GJ Kinney's doing, or if you're the head coach and you're not delegating somebody to be doing that, then I'll repeat what I said. You're an absolute moron. Why would you possibly not be doing everything you can to learn about these guys, especially when they're so out there as opposed to pre-social media? So yeah, that's just common sense, and it's worked out well for him so far, but it sounds like he goes a little deeper than most, and I think that'll definitely help him avoid some consequence in the future. He did have and I know it was a bit complicated, but there was Jaden Delora a few years back, and that wasn't that you had to do any digging. That was pretty common knowledge, and that kind of blew up and became a whole thing. So I'm sure that's probably played into his head as well, of avoid any situations like that. But yeah, that's just smart business, is to know who you're bringing in and how they reflect on you as a team and as a university.
Yeah, he's also one of the younger coaches, one of the younger head coaches too. So he's keeping up with that. All right, let's get to the closing part of this show, and that includes the wheel. I went 2-0, Craig. I didn't think I was. There was a pop culture type question at the end, a quiz, and I just got it right. And then also, of course, we'll have the poll results. Let's spin the wheel. My God, there's like only 3 choices.
We went from 200. What was the latest sports movie or documentary you watched, and was it any good?
I would probably, and I'm not good about names of movies. I'm not good even about who plays in the movies. I just know the ones. But as far as sports movie, I can't remember anything. But the last documentary I watched was the 1980 Miracle on Ice. That was maybe, I don't know if it was on Netflix or whatever it was. I thought it was really, really good. That's the last one I watched. So that would be mine. That would be mine. And of course, it was in conjunction to the Olympic Games and the winter event earlier this year.
Yeah, I think mine was probably F1.
I didn't watch that one.
And yeah, I mean, I just wish I would have watched it in IMAX or, bigger theater, kind of like Top Gun Maverick. Like, it was really great, but it would have been even better if you had watched it in this version. Like, the Odyssey's out now and it's getting great early returns. But the way to watch it is in like an IMAX. I won't be able to watch it that way, but F1 was solid. And so that would have been the actual sports movie that I've watched here recently. And I think the documentary was probably the Elway one on Netflix. Watched that a little while ago. So yeah, that was good stuff. Learned a bit more about John Elway, who's kind of somebody who I appreciated at the time, but he was not amongst my favorites by any means. So all these years later, kind of revisiting his career and all that was a fun experience. So yeah.
Here's one for us to think about. And I did watch this one, and I would include that. Chris Bartles brought up the Cowboys documentary, Jerry Jones and Company. That was really good on Netflix. That was very, very good. I think there were episodes on that rather than one long documentary, if I recall. Chris, thank you for bringing that. Chris also moved out of Dallas and now living in Lorena, just south of Waco. He said, yeah, they would move a major to where I used to live. I leave, and now there's the major next year.
Everything going out to Frisco feels like, right? But that's a shame. I guess it's not too far of a journey for you though, Chris. So you could get back up there pretty quick. That's like a nothing drive to me now at this point is going up to Dallas, even on 35. Just done it so many times now. But yeah, that's a bummer, but great for Frisco, and definitely got to be looking around the room at the other places that are holding those tournaments and going like, us, we're here. Like, it's like the brand new actress sitting with like Meryl Streep and all the greats, right? And you're this new face, but very cool.
It is amazing what has happened in that city and how it's beautiful too. You drive through there at night, all the beautiful glass buildings that are lit up. From Jason E. 1972. If the best SEC teams can't make it through the college football playoff, they think their second-tier teams can? Only way to guarantee it is to stack the deck in the college football playoff with all of the SEC teams. Shake my head.
Yeah, I mean, Drinkowitz is clearly lobbying for just his own self-interest, as most coaches will do. But yeah, just cram 8 teams in there and let the chips fall where they may. I think it would weigh more if we had this conversation. And I feel like we still did have this conversation like 3 years ago, but people were getting used to just a 12 at that point or wondering what that was going to look like. And now here we are, and we're gearing up for probably a 24 pretty soon. But yeah, I mean, I don't knock the attempt, because if I was in their position, I would probably be doing the same thing. But as somebody who's not them, I can look at it and go, we see what you're doing. We know exactly what you're up to. It's just a matter of whether you'll get away with it or not. But yeah, I think that's the kind of common sentiment is they have shown a little bit of vulnerability. They can't just walk in the room and take it over the way that they could do 3 years ago. Even 2 years ago, because now you've had a couple more teams from the Big Ten win. And the fact that Indiana has joined Michigan and Ohio State really flips things on its head, because that was the wild card nobody could have foreseen coming. It's one thing for Michigan to win a title. It's one thing for Ohio State to win a title. It's another thing entirely for Indiana to now win a title. So I think they're a little bit shook, and they see that they're still in really good shape, but they're not quite where they were, and they want to do their best to ensure that they get back to that or can maintain what they do have. So I get it, but yeah, we also see through it.
All right, before we get to the quizzes and the polls, let's get to the last. We did a super chat earlier from Maximus. We appreciated him. Here's 3 other super chats from today. And your pet cat again. Preamble. I don't like split championships. However, they were a part of the game back then. Now the Cotton Bowl division was hard for me to do, so it's short by 1 team. So your pet cat again has been trying to put together divisions and conferences and leagues, et cetera, that are included in what would be a super league. So he's working on that. He's also, I told him to just email me and we'll go over that at some particular time. But I don't like split championships. However, they were a part of the game. You're exactly right. The reason they went to the BCS was because 1997 Nebraska and 1997 Michigan were both incredibly good. They weren't going to play each other because of the bowl structure, and they split the national title. And from that point on, they went to the BCS standings.
That's part of the reason why they're doing this. Also, it's money. It's also money. So that's what everything comes back to.
I think it is now, but I don't think it was then. I'm sure there was money involved, but back then there was such a clamoring of you got to have one, which led to the BCS, which I don't know if that had any extra games involved like we now see with the college football playoff, which absolutely brings in
the
more
BCS
money.
was just the top two teams.
Yeah, they just played
the regular
could
bowl
be a team that normally wouldn't have played in the Rose Bowl or normally wouldn't play in the Orange Bowl, and it forced that to happen in 1998.
Yeah, I mean the BCS included the bigger bowl games, but they went with what the computer doled out for the Natty versus the AP coaches polls, and I didn't like that in '97. I was rooting hard for Nebraska, so wanted them to be the outright national champions. Felt like they were deserving of that. Also totally understand Michigan's argument that year as well. Didn't like that. I would trade it all to go back to that versus what we have now, though. Like if we could go back to pre-playoff, pre-realignment, as far as the last couple rounds of that go, I would do that in a heartbeat. I mean, I really enjoy the new Big 12. I enjoy as an Oklahoma fan seeing them in the SEC. I do. Like, I wouldn't say like as an Oklahoma fan, I necessarily want to go back to that way, but college football as a whole, it just made a lot more sense back then than it does right now. And it was a lot easier to just kind of understand things the way that they were. And there was a lot less lawsuits, although there were still some. But there was still a lot of bitching about the NCAA back then, and lack of even-handed penalties and all of that. But when it comes to that time period, I remember the arguments over the split titles. But man, it still seems so much simpler compared to what we have now.
69, 1970. Texas and Nebraska split a national title. It happened. USC, Alabama one year split a national title.
Didn't really harm anybody in the long run. Like it didn't affect anything. It's just like it wasn't nice and neat. And I think that's what I had a problem with. Was like, no, there should be one champion. There should be and like, how could we have Michigan and Nebraska and them not play each other to see who the champion is? So, yeah, I was right there with a lot of people. As far as the Cotton Bowl division, your pet cat again, just send that in and we'll get to talking about it.
I just put up my email again in the chat. So you just send it to me. There we go. Your Cotton Bowl division, Arkansas, Auburn, Minnesota. Again, he remember last week when he put it up, he talks about it. I think it was like since 19 whatever. Notre Dame, Pittsburgh with Tony Dorsett, Syracuse, way back in the day, UT, and then next 2A champion. Next 2A champion. And 2A, I guess, would be another division. Or maybe the group of 5 or 6. I don't know.
Yeah. He's got his own qualifications for how he's doing this. And part of it was, I know that you had to win a national title. So that's why some of these teams are selected here that might not be otherwise selected for some people. I think the geography would probably be the thing that jumps out to most people as far as being like what you would find problematic would be going up to Minnesota, Texas going to Syracuse versus just playing Alabama or LSU or A&M. But I know you got your own method for how you're doing it. So your pet cat again, keep it coming. Yep. And we appreciate the support.
I mentioned in the chat, send me details, like send me your divisions, your conferences, whatever, call them whatever you want, but also tell me why they are like the Cotton Bowl division or whatever. Here is another super chat from today. And thank you very much, Kim Coulter. It's official. There will be a new logo on the Texas Tech tailgate tent this year. Look for the brand new Smoke Show logo. He sent me a copy of it, and it looks spectacular. And Kim, thank you for publicizing what we do with now the Smoke Show and 365 Sports at Lubbock at Texas Tech tailgating.
Yeah, had a fun time at Texas Tech tailgates back in the day, and know it'll be a real party out there this year. So, Kim, you know how I feel about you, man. Appreciate the support as always. Never ceases to amaze. And so, just thank you very much for that. And can't wait to see some pictures and hopefully a lot of people get eyes and and come up wondering, and we get some new fans as a result of it. So thank you.
Your pet Gadigan said the 218s would be teams like Oregon or A&M that do not have a trophy in the time period. A&M has one back in the 30s in a time period that I specified. Okay, thank you for doing that. Final super chat. I think this is it. That's it? We did them all. All right. Thank you very much for all of that you put in to our YouTube channel, 365 Sports. Let's get to quizzes from Andrew Jiu-Jitsu Delayed. The first quiz. July 20th, 1984, the Never-Ending Story debuted. Speaking of a never-ending saga, which NFL team owns the NFL's longest championship game drought since 1995? Oh, my God. This one's so easy.
I believe it's the Cowboys.
It is absolutely, because that's the last year they won the NFC Championship and won the Super Bowl. They beat Pittsburgh in Super Bowl 30, and all the other ones have been to a championship game since that time, even what has been the flailing Washington Redskins and Commanders.
I mean, hell, they just did it 2 years ago.
2 years ago,
right?
yep.
Yeah.
So there we are with that. The Cowboys. Let's look at, there we go.
You're afraid to read that, aren't you? Trying to figure out what a Treyu is. I think he's referring to the Never-Ending Story, which, yeah, you're not going to know that either.
What is Treyo?
It's from the Never-Ending Story, which you mentioned in the question of the movie, The Never-Ending Story.
Don't try to make me take. Yeah. I went JUCO.
I mean, me too. But while Atreyu battled to nothing, Cowboys fans have battled playoff heartbreak for 30 years. Dallas hasn't reached an NFC Championship game since January '96. Going 5-13 in the playoffs with 8 one-and-done exits despite 3 straight 12-win seasons and a $10 billion franchise value. Their postseason remains a never-ending story. Look at you bringing it full circle, Andrew. Well done on putting a bow on that. And I did see a lot of conversation from people who checked out Jerry's World, the World Cup version, that much preferred it to Jerry's World, the NFL version, because they blocked out the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So they found a way to do that and get the event off just fine, but his just ego will not allow him to change certain things. So
I thought it was funny. One game, critical game, a couple of years ago, when whoever dropped a pass because of the glare in a huge moment in a game.
Yeah,
that was a big game, and he's just not going to do it. You're right, because of his
no.
ego.
The World Cup said though, we run this B, and they took over that stadium like it was theirs.
They took over the name at Dallas Stadium. That's what they did everywhere. And guess what they also did? I did not know this. They took Jerry Jones's luxury suite, the box, the owner's box, which no one's ever done that before. But FIFA got it, and I'm sure that was killing him. So there we are with that.
I think he was out on his yacht on the Mediterranean and did not probably care too much. But I think he
attended one game.
I'm sure he went to some.
Yeah.
He would be. I mean, yeah, that would be moronic to not have gone to some when you own the stadium. Like, yeah, you better have a great spot for the biggest games out there. I would have taken care of, man, I would have just lived there for about a month.
Yeah, he could have. He has his own private elevator to his suite. All right, next quiz. July 20th of 73, Bruce Lee passed away. At the age of 32, before becoming a martial arts icon, he won a major 1958 championship in which unexpected activity? Oh, damn.
I'm trying to think if I've ever read anything on this, and nothing's coming to mind. I'm not a Bruce Lee expert, obviously, but
to me, the first three make no sense. So that's probably one of them.
I actually think this sounds crazy. I think the first one makes sense because of just like the fluidity of his movements, and that just seems like something that would make sense, like go-kart racing. Like I don't see any connect. I mean, there doesn't have to be a connection to what he does, but for some reason, ballroom dancing stood out to me because of just like the flow and the smoothness.
Let's
of
go
it
with it.
all.
I really had no idea that. I have no clue. Let's go with ballroom dancing. 2-0.
Before shattering movie cameras with lightning-fast strikes, 17-year-old Bruce Lee won the 1958 Hong Kong Cha-Cha Championship, keeping a notebook of 108 dance steps to perfect his footwork. His speed was so unreal, the director shot his fights at 34 frames per second instead of 24 to capture his moves. And he even charged Hollywood stars $275 an hour for private lessons.
Got to give Paxton, firefighter, wet blanket, and all credit. They said ballroom dancing and firefighter. I just watched a YouTube short about this the other day.
Oh, okay.
Good for you, firefighter. Thank you
Good
very
deal.
much. Let's get to the poll results for those of you who voted. How will Ward Manuel's tenure at Michigan be remembered? This all maybe depends on who you ask. 78% scandals and oversight compared to 22% champions and trophies. Michigan fans might have flipped that around while he was there.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really talk much about this, although we did last week.
I brought it up earlier in the show.
Yeah,
that
we didn't.
out. Yeah,
we didn't spend time on it, and not really a ton to say that didn't already say. Other than, I guess it's not surprising. It's good to just see that there's a resolution out there versus like, oh, this is happening soon. No, it's not. Yes, it is. They're tug of warring over whether he's going to be out or not. And so now we know he is going to be out at the end of the year. I think 22% are probably Michigan fans, and 78% is everybody else, probably mostly Ohio State fans. I won't think about Ward Manuel ever again, probably, unless he gives me a reason to. But if I do look back on it, at this point, I'm probably going to remember a lot of the scandals, but I am also going to remember the championships. I'm going to be like, yeah, all that was happening, but they won the football national title and the men's basketball national title and some other national titles. So it's a little bit of both for me, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I got to tell you, if you're a fan of Michigan, you might go, damn, man, we got to clean our stuff up. But I think fans will remember they won football and they also won in, of course, men's basketball with both those coaches now gone. 78% scandals and oversight. Let's get to the next one. Good voting, too. 1,700 plus votes. Which rookie are you most excited to watch after their scorching summer league debut? Some of these guys played a game or two, and that's it. But Caleb Wilson is who I voted for. I watched a little clip or two of him, like a minute, and this guy is hitting threes like nobody could have ever expected and has had a great summer. He blows away the competition with 63%.
Yeah, I didn't realize we had so many summer league or NBA fans, but yeah, clearly a lot of people interested in this question, which is great. And yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about Caleb Wilson. Haven't watched much myself. I'm a man without a team in the NBA these days, but have heard really good things about Caleb Wilson. I know Debance's stay was short in summer league, right? And didn't he?
I think he played 2 games.
Yeah, it was like 2 games. But I'm really excited to see all these guys once the regular season gets underway. It's amazing what the NBA's done as far as building up summer league to be like this big event, this big kind of attraction for people in the offseason to come and attend and hang out in Vegas and do all that kind of stuff. So yeah, they've made it a part of their calendar over these last few years in a major way. And so yeah, ready to see these guys in full form once the regular season starts. But yeah, Caleb Wilson definitely has Chicago excited.
He is hitting threes left and right. 63% dominates the poll. 1,720 votes for Andrew at his poll today. Thank you very much, Andrew. Thanks to Logan Bagessi. Cheyenne was here for a cup of coffee, and Brody was one of the young kids that was here, one of the interns today who joined us. Garrett, of course, and Rez, Michelangelo, Flores, and Garrett Ross. Thank you, sir, very much for what you do. Thank you for watching what we do every day, 365 Sports and the Smoke Show. Craig, good to see you again. We're back tomorrow. I think we got a pretty good lineup tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed the ones we had today with Pat Smith and Chris Vanini. For our sponsors, thank you very much. Good night, 365 Sports. We'll see you at 3 tomorrow.
You heard of the new IRA, the Insured Retirement Advantage? It's a strategy for younger high-income earners and small business owners who want to get serious about retirement. The Insured Retirement Advantage can help you build a tax-free income stream for retirement, protect your family's legacy, keep your capital working efficiently, and you don't need ultra-high net worth status to qualify. Call 623-256-6902 or go to NorthstarFundingPartners.com and tell them 365 Sports sent you.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Make this the summer event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get behind the wheel of an iconic new Dodge Charger RT and score $5,000 in savings. First responders and military members get an extra $500 bonus. Allen Samuels Dodge.
Come by, let's be friends.
Hi, I'm Dana Hassel, President and CEO of American Bank. Waco is a great place for business, and for more than 70 years, American Bank has been the bank for business. We continue to invest in our growing community with state-of-the-art branches conveniently located to serve you within minutes. Our experienced bankers, lenders, and decision makers work directly with business owners like you every day, providing tailored solutions, timely answers, and local insights, face-to-face. Schedule a meeting with one of our bankers today and find out what makes American Bank the bank for your business. Member FDIC.
At Home Place Interiors, we elevate your space with elegance and class. We are the exclusive Sonoma tile dealer in Central Texas, bringing you the best in high-end floor coverings that transform your home with beauty and elegant design. Our white glove service and expert consultations ensure your vision becomes a reality as we take you step by step through the process. Call today to schedule your personal design consultation. Visit HomeplaceInteriorsTX.com. Home Place Interiors, crafting elegance, one room at a time.